Okay, if we could call the meeting to order, folks.
Do you want to make sure that volume?
Let's go fish.
Okay, Poisson d'Avril. You know what they, in French, Poisson d'Avril is April Fool.
I wish I didn't sometimes.
Okay, so present, we have Michael Stevens, Ralph, George, myself, we have Diane via conference. Muffy is not available, Carolyn is not available. I believe Jimmy will be here.
And I think this is
Heather.
Heather.
Heather is,
She just tried calling me.
okay, all right. So Andrew, we got a lot to cover,
The meeting's
and
at
we're,
the
the
Opera
expectation
House
is
in
that we're gonna get it all done tonight, right?
That's right.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, so are we picking up where we left off? Is Heather
She's on her way.
good?
Okay, good. Let's see, where did we leave off last time?
I thought we were gonna vote on the school first.
Last.
Oh, last.
Okay.
You left off on number 9, the Public Works Fire Department generator and overhead doors and exterior doors. That's $65,252 with an offsetting revenue coming in from grants of $31,900.
Did we move that also with the,
I make a motion we vote on that,
with the reserve?
to accept it.
I'll second that.
Okay, and which number are
Number
we,
9.
Number 9.
formerly known as some other number, but,
So I don't have the same spreadsheet. So you have the generator and the overhead garage doors?
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
that's correct. And it's the one that's offset by the USDA Community Facilities Grant at about 49% from USDA.
Okay.
and the overhead doors is something that we feel needs to be done as an upgrade for better building efficiency. The generator is something we don't particularly need right now, but we would like to have in place eventually because all 3 buildings would then be self-sufficient.
Yeah, really the thought is that one of the emergency services that we have in town really is Public Works, because they have to be able to get in, get out, and fix equipment under duress. So, you know, if there's some kind of event going on, they need to be able to have the power to plow the streets, to fix the roads, to fix equipment that breaks down. And this would do that, and it does it basically at 50% off
Right.
normal.
And isn't this a portable, is this a portable generator?
No, this is a permanent installation.
Oh, I thought it
at
was
the
on a
facility.
truck or
Yeah.
something, so it could be moved around.
I believe it's like one of those Generac
Yeah, yeah.
units that we just have on a concrete
Oh, okay.
pad. Yep.
And it could be shared by the fire department?
Oh, shoot.
No, I think does the fire
Department has their own.
has their own. Police department have their own. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll keep my big feet up.
Were you the one that did that?
Yeah.
Diane, are you hearing us okay?
I am, yes.
Okay, improved technology. It's Andrew's fault.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, okay, so motion made and seconded, made by
George,
George and seconded by Ralph. Okay, any discussion on number 9, Public Works and Fire Department generator and overhead door enhancement, replacement, improvement? Okay, all those in favor of Article 9, please say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, so that
4-0.
4-0. Okay. Next one, Andrew.
Well, if we're going in order, do we want to go ahead and address the EMS? Because I think that's where we were at.
I'd like to jump down to 16, which is the fire department fire pumper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably the
We're
better.
doing that, yeah.
Okay, so Diane, what is now number 16, fire department fire pumper, also known as new fire truck?
All right.
Okay, now, at one time, weren't there some monies requested for this?
The monies that were requested for an engine to be redone and a fire truck to be redone was a couple of years ago, and that was engine 6. This is for engine 3. Engine 3 could not be refurbished. And we are getting a grant for it. If the grant isn't approved, then we won't be getting the truck. The reason it's $500,000, the offsetting amount is $500,000. There's $475,000 coming from a grant. And then today we discussed taking $25,000 from the fund balance. So there's no cost to the taxpayers for this piece of equipment.
Okay, so the 500 is actually made up of two offsetting. Because we did have on one of the previous sheets, 25,000.
Right.
That's
I
right.
make a motion to approve this purchase.
Okay. Second to George's motion?
Yeah, but now she's saying, hang on a second, now she's saying that 25,000.
Okay.
You want me to say why we were doing that?
Well, it could be, I guess, the question, and Diane, obviously, listen, I mean, the concern, obviously, as it's been voiced before, is when we take money from
Fund balance.
fund balance or whatever, is where does it leave the
It doesn't
fund?
matter, we're $25,000 against $500,000, I mean, that's no question.
No, George, I think that's important, but there's still a discussion of the 25,000, whether we raise and appropriate that through taxes. I totally agree with you, getting the 25,000, however we do it, against the remaining balance. But I do have concern about taking it from the fund balance. I think it should just be raised and appropriated, and leave the fund balance where it is at this time. And then when the tax rate is set in October, if there's sufficient funds to offset taxes, do it then. But we don't know where we're at this point in this year.
As of the last audit, we had $518,000 in fund balance. Nothing was used to offset taxes. The end of 2017 rough estimate, and I know I'm low guessing, is probably another $50,000 to $100,000 added to the fund balance.
It's minute, $25,000.
Yeah, right, it is, but Diane's point is where the money's
Okay.
She's not opposing the money, she's
I know
just
that.
questioning where we're
I
taking it
understand
from.
that, but we've got $518,000 in expecting.
But Karen, you're feeling more optimistic about the surplus than you were, and I know you
Yeah.
always are on the conservative side, and I don't criticize you for that at all, but I mean, but you're feeling, obviously now we're at the end of the year,
We're getting closer to getting everything in. I still feel between $50,000 and $100,000 is very reasonable to
Yeah.
what's going to be added to the fund balance.
But Diane, we're hearing what you're saying, you're in favor of the 25, just a question of where it's gonna come from.
Right. I agree with getting the pumper, putting $25,000 towards it. However, I do not like taking it out of the fund balance at this time. I think if we have what Karen says, 52 to 100,000 at the end of the year, that will come into play next October when the tax rate is set. But I don't want to, belabor this, but I will vote no if it's taken out of the fund balance.
You have to vote for us.
Okay, that's right. Any other, I mean, good points, and, obviously, everybody's in favor, it's just a question of how to do it, and obviously it makes perfect sense if, in the last two, we paid for ourselves, so if you can actually leverage it this way, that would obviously be great, so,
You didn't bring the new writing for the,
No, I did not.
okay. Okay, any further questions or discussion on Article 16, Fire Department pumper, okay? All those in favor of supporting the article as written with the entire $500,000 coming from grants and or use of surplus, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
This time.
No. Yeah.
Okay, so, okay, so that's
4 to
4 to
1.
1,
Four.
4 to 1.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Five.
And, or did you think you need to say more on that, or did that was,
That's, yeah.
Karen did very well.
Yep, oh yeah, she's great at that.
I'm sorry, Phyllis, but I just think the fund balance should be protected. So.
No, no, and that's,
Well, we got
and that's,
another 118 on top of the 500,000 we got now, right now, Diane.
wow.
We're not certain about that, George.
No,
And
it's,
Okay.
Well, you
Conservation.
lost anyway, I'm sorry.
Warrant article number 17, Conservation Commission, their unexpended funds from 2017 budget, and it's estimated at $500. And this is a warrant article that we have on every year. The warrant article is to put in their funds $500 and to take that from their unexpended funds, which actually comes from the unexpended or undesignated fund balance. It's $500, so there's no cost to the taxpayer.
So what's happened over the years, we gave them authority, I guess it was, several years ago. They always had a small budget, $2,000 or something, which they never spent, rarely spent.
Right.
So they have authority to retain whatever's allocated to them. So we've reached the point now where they've retained enough where they don't really feel they need to ask for any.
This is what they're asking for a budget.
Right.
And the budget.
But it's gonna be funded out of what they have retained over the last few years?
No. This $500
Yeah.
is money that goes into their trust funds, their reserve funds that they hold, which
Okay.
amount to about $70,000.
Mhm.
And this money can be used by them through a process to purchase land to conserve.
Okay, okay,
Certain
so
lands.
in the budget, they have a request that's in the budget.
They have their normal 2,000 plus
Yeah,
that they
okay.
request every year.
All right,
This is what was left of 2017.
okay, so actually, every year we authorize them to, it's not an ongoing
No.
authorization. Every
No.
year we have to allow, sorry, I
Yeah,
misstated
whatever's
that.
remaining, yeah.
Okay, all right, so anyway, so they basically had $500 left over from their 2017 budget, and we're authorizing them to retain that overage, if you would, and hold it for future use,
Yes.
okay?
And they've got about 70,000 in that fund now? Approximately how much do they spend a year?
Out of that fund,
Yeah.
they haven't
Nothing?
been spending
It
anything.
depends on what they buy anyway.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah, they may have a project next year.
okay.
Okay, so on 17, so do I have a motion to support 17?
I'll make a motion.
Made by George, seconded by,
I'll second.
okay. All those in favor of Article 17 to allow the Conservation Commission to retain their $500 of unused 2017 funds, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so that's passed, approved 5-0.
Okay, there was already a vote on the LIDC, transfer of property. So we moved down to the Opera House, and this is the Opera House building maintenance. We have 10,000 there, and that's to help with improving this room next to us so that we're able to rent out the room and start getting some revenues back in, because this room needs a lot of work. The other priority item that we have is we're having the furnace looked at right now in the air circulation, and there needs to be some improvements there so that the furnace isn't running quite as much, because where some of the thermostats are and some of the circulation that's happening, the furnace is running more than it should.
Yeah.
So this is something that's being looked at right now. We are waiting for an estimate on. So whatever we have left from doing some of those furnace improvements and heating improvements, the balance of it will be left to work some on these rooms. I don't know if it's gonna cover everything or not, but we need to start somewhere.
Yeah,
in order to.
and that is the room that Ron Bolt and
Yes.
Peter, I think, last year or the year before, I mean, we did do some installation improvements there.
So that's part of this is, when we got that quote, it was for the insulation work, and then, I don't think we had Amos yet at the time, who's helping us manage all the buildings, and, you know, his question was, well, what about electrical? You're gonna have to rip out the insulation to do electrical after, so we hadn't planned for that. And, so this, I've got a quote, I think, from, it's either Jeff Corey or Royal Electric for what the electrical, there's lighting work that needs to be done, all of that in there. And then the efficiency work will be done after that. So, yeah.
That's good. Okay.
And we're supposed to still getting back a fund back into that, right? Has that been received yet, or to
You mean for
offset that?
for the grant? So,
For last year's grant?
So we haven't actually done the work yet. We've had some delays with the contractor initially, and then there's this electrical delay.
Okay,
So,
but you still can
there's
only
offsetting
spend
funds, right?
what was approved after that was,
Right.
that came
There's,
in, after the
I
fund
don't,
came in.
yeah, and I don't remember the total offsetting funds, but I think it was some between 20 and 30 grand, if I'm remembering right. Yeah. Through,
The
it's through,
maximum was 44,000 that could be expended.
right.
We were expecting to get half of that as a
That's
grant.
right. Yeah, and it's through Eversource, I believe. Yeah, an Eversource grant.
Okay, yeah. Diane, you feel comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
now,
so, yes, so
to
again,
continue conversation, I'm not a big fan of putting maintenance money into this building.
Except we're getting money in return, Ralph.
Well, not, yeah, eventually, but there's $19,000 for maintenance in the budget for the Opera House, and now they're asking for another 10,000. And part of this 19,000 was to redo the stained glass windows, which really should be done, that should be a full grant to be able to do that. It's a historic building, there should be full grants out there to do the stained glass
So
windows.
we would try to pursue grant monies. The difficulty is without having, you never really guaranteed the money. Like, for example, we could try to go for some LCHIP funds.
I know that,
If it's
that's why, worst case scenario, you're asking for $29,000 again this year for maintenance for this building. When we put maintenance money into it every single year, we put more and more maintenance money. And their budget, I realize that they've got some appropriations here, which isn't half of what the budget amount is. It's about half, well, a little over half of what the budget amount is, but they've got a budget amount for $84,422, including that 19,000, now another 10,000. And it just makes me sick to put money into this building like that.
That's a protected income.
You know, I think one
Next year.
of the things to consider is we're really moving forward with the building in a different way, and we're turning it into something that's generating revenue. There is a lot of costs. If you look at the estimated revenue this year, I think is around 40.
The estimated revenue is 49,000.
49,000.
The budget's 84,000, now another 10,000.
So
That's 94,000.
And if you think about, for example, this room right here, this is well, we have someone who actually is waiting to lease this space. Right now, we're leasing them a very small space. They want to
How
get in
much,
and
for how
larger.
much a month?
I don't know. I'd have to check. And we were actually considering too, looking at some way to subdivide inside of there so we could have more revenue. We're leasing out spaces that we haven't before, and people have interest. And the venue itself, providing is providing a lot more revenue. This room itself is also providing revenue, and part of the attraction of leasing this space out is that people will have access to this conference room for some of their work. But I think it is a work in progress. Nothing, and I think you and I spoke about this in the past, maybe a year ago or so, about how nothing had really been done here for a decade, or at least it seemed that way. And there's a little bit of growing pains, but I think you'll see some good work happening. And we still have a lot of room for improvement down on the Cottage Street level. That's I think maybe 7,000 square feet where we're going to.
But that's going to cost us.
Yes.
I mean, everything we do to this building costs us money, more and more money
yeah,
every
but
single
Ralph,
year.
the community did make a commitment to this building, a real affirmative commitment several years ago. So we've put $1.5 million in this building.
I realize that.
We're not gonna cut and run now.
And it's gonna take a long time at $49,000 a year to bring back $1.5 million we put into it. So to bring it back up to basic standard. But I just wanna know, I'm just against another $10,000 on this budget.
Yeah, well, I understand your concern, I understand your argument. I'm just saying though that, predating this discussion, I mean, we'd had an extensive discussion on this building, and I think I told you before, I mean, we basically got a $3 million project done for $1.5 million. So we're pretty well positioned, but yes, I'm not saying it's not gonna cost a little bit more, but there certainly is some new energy in terms of renting the venue. Society's changed. There's a lot of people out there looking for special venues for different things. And I think that if, with the marketing plan we have going now, I'd certainly like to think within the next 5 years that budget you see will actually have greater income than it does expenses.
Yeah, we gotta very shortly get to the point where the revenue exceeds the budget.
Yeah.
And that's it. This building has to be
Yeah.
self-sufficient.
And
If
that
it's not
is-
in the next
that-
few years, this building should be just gotten rid of by the town.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I
that's
think
my
we're,
point.
I believe we're headed in that direction, and I certainly hope
Okay.
we'll be there in the 5-year window.
And just, there is also an added benefit to the building that does help the tax base in that whenever an event does happen here, you'll find that our restaurants are full and, sometimes even our rooms are full because it's supporting.
Explain to me how added business helps our revenue base. Because that's business taxes that go to the state.
But it just helps the town.
The
Just helps
state
the town.
reimburses the town a portion of the rooms and meals taxes.
Oh, it does? I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay, that I
this-
didn't know.
Yeah.
This past year, we got about $305,000.
Oh, okay.
And it's been increasing, which I
I
think is a
did-
good sign.
I didn't know that. That's good news. That's good to know.
I mean, and then the other aspect is just that by having a healthy business, paying healthy rents, or supporting their property, that, they're in a good place to pay their property taxes, and the value of those parcels goes up, and then their portion of the tax base also can increase, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Article 19, Opera House. I need a motion to support that article.
So moved.
Oh, go ahead, Diane.
Okay, second by,
Second.
is your middle initial T?
Huh? Is what?
Your middle initial T.
P.
T.
P.
George
Like
P.
Tom.
Kirk, not George T. Kirk,
That's right.
okay? You know why I could make that mistake,
Yeah,
though.
Captain. We'll start calling you Captain.
Captain and Tennille. Okay, all those in favor of supporting Article 19, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, so that's supported 4-1.
So we're gonna move on to number 20, which I believe Andrew will need to speak to, and we do have some handout information. This is the keynote. There's currently no tax impact. It's yes or no to allow us to.
Rudy?
Or allow someone to sell Keno. Do Keno.
Business or school, what is it a business thing? Or we've got it. You got one, Mike? I know, we got several, that's what I have.
So why,
Oh, you
why,
did it.
why does the budget need to be going on this?
That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, I know, we were actually talking about that today. Do you have to vote on it?
Because I say skip to
Yeah,
23.
yeah.
Well, other than we don't want to go as a negative.
So I'll make a motion, we pass,
That we
The
support it?
huh?
That we support it?
There's sport to Keno Act. Costing on it,
I'll second it. You just
Okay.
made a motion, right?
Is there any-
Second.
do you want to disseminate any information on it, quick? just a quick
Basically,
summary?
from what I understand, the legislators tied a Keno vote to funding for kindergarten. So a town is required to put it on the ballot. If a town does not put it on the ballot, then we could lose, is it 3,000?
No.
1,000, let's see, shoot. $1,100 for each student attending full-day kindergarten program. So,
Want that per student?
per student.
Are you sure?
That's everything.
Because I read in here that you do not have to approve it.
No, that's
And you'll
correct.
still get the same amount of money.
That's correct. So we have to put it on the ballot.
Right, if you
Yeah.
put it on the ballot, right.
Okay, so it has to be on the ballot, but it doesn't need to be passed.
It doesn't
Right.
need to be passed, it just needs to be on the ballot.
Right,
Okay.
We still get the money whether it passes or not.
that's right.
What is the downside to being able to do this in town? I have no idea.
I don't think there is any dime.
Well, I mean, if you could, there's a lot of legislative testimony on it, and you probably have to defer to that. Some people think that gambling may increase, addiction to this, and low-income people may be affected. Some people say it's great for the economy.
They got keno anyway.
Yeah.
Tickets.
Let's gamble.
Okay. Would we like to take a vote? Okay, okay, motion made by George, second by Ralph. All those in favor of supporting Article 20, the Keno article, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, supported 5-0.
The next one is amendment to the dog ordinance, which is warrant article 21. No tax impact, and I can't speak on this, but perhaps Andrew or Milt could.
We have an expert here.
I can speak to it just briefly. We have an ordinance that we passed last year regarding the dog trespassing ordinance, regarding not allowing your dogs to be on the athletic fields. The fields and the boundaries are well defined in the ordinance, and this is primarily a public health issue. As I think I've indicated before, the students prior to a game with maybe another school have to go out onto the, or have had to go out on the fields and pick up dog feces. Sometimes they take 20 to 30 minutes to do this. As we all maybe know already, when you pick it up, you don't necessarily pick it all up. There's a number of different kinds of diseases that can be picked up from this. So we did approve an ordinance as selectmen last spring, late spring. And we put up the signs this summer, and there's already a dog ordinance which addresses the issue of not picking up your dog waste in the parks or anywhere in the public areas of the town. This dog ordinance, what we're going to do is merge the two into one particular ordinance. So what we passed in this late spring will become part of the full dog ordinance that currently exists. So it's just merging these two into one.
The school and the town?
Right. Well, all the fields belong to the town. They don't belong to the school. There's 9 different athletic fields in 6 different areas in town. And they've all been signed now, and it's just a matter of making this one large ordinance instead of 2 separate ordinances.
Why is it a warrant article? What if the people vote it down? What happens?
Now, because we're discussing the dog ordinance is simply being amended because we already have a dog ordinance that did require a town vote some years ago.
Oh, okay.
Article 3, I'm glad you asked that, Ralph. I had to think about this for a minute. We already have a dog ordinance, and it was passed by the town by town vote, and had to be because it's resting on a state law. So when you have a ordinance that rests or reflects a state law, it has to be passed by the town at town meeting,
okay.
Or in our case, in March at our 3rd meeting. So this is just merging the two, but we had to have a town vote for it.
Okay.
It's modifying the current ordinance.
And is there any dollar impact to this?
No.
There's no.
Except for my time.
And other than just being coincidence, there's no reference to the recent conversation in Washington, D.C. with the S word.
In certain people's minds, perhaps, no, this has nothing to do with it.
You weren't influenced by the nightly news.
No, I was not.
Okay, I'll make a motion to pass Article 21 as is.
I second.
Okay. Ralph and George, you guys are kind of monopolizing it.
It's okay, if anybody would speak up, but I'm leaving here at 6
Make
o'clock.
scandals on it.
Okay. All those in favor of Article 21, supporting Article 21, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, supported 5-0.
Did Jimmy?
Oh, excuse me.
Oh,
6.
six.
Jim, sorry about
I
that.
wasn't involved in the last.
Okay. Keno, were you in? Did
I
I?
didn't catch the whole presentation, so.
Okay.
The next one is amendment to the hawker and peddler's license. There's no tax impact. and I'm gonna have to let Andrew speak
Do
about
they get a
this.
license? Can they buy a license to hawk and peddle on the street?
So what this would do would be requiring a background check prior to people coming around as part of the application process. So we would know who's in town and going door to door. Yeah. And a resident could ask to see if they've been approved, and you'd know if they were background checked.
Is it a problem now?
I couldn't speak to that. I think that Paul Smith would be more equipped to. I know that Paul wouldn't be bringing the time he spent on this. He wouldn't bring it up if he didn't perceive an issue. With drugs, home invasions, and that kind of thing, I imagine that this could be a preventative measure there.
I hate to do it, but I'm gonna make a motion that we vote for the dog ordinance.
Or hawkers.
No,
peddlers.
that's Hawkins.
Hawkers.
I mean, hawkers and peddlers.
Yeah.
And I'll second.
You guys, in violation of federal antitrust. Monopolizing.
We're trying to get.
I know, George, I know, expedite, you said, okay. Diane, any question, or,
Nope, let's move it.
okay, all those in favor of supporting Article 22 on the hawkers, if you would, please say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? It's supported 6-0.
The next warrant article is Article 23, which is a planning board article. It's to update the master plan. My understanding, this hasn't been done for 5 years plus. And the estimated cost is $32,000. We had originally felt that, or had originally had this as a tax impact. The feeling is this is quite important to the town. And the plan was to take the monies from fund balance. And if there was grant money, of course, the amount from fund balance can be pulled back out to reduce taxes.
And we would also try to look for any grants that might be available. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I sit on the planning board as a liaison from the select board. We have done a survey of the town. We did a sample of 10% of the elected, or the people that are registered to vote. And we have part of that information available now to be updated into the plan. Plan hasn't been updated in 10 years or longer. It's a 5-year rotation, but it somehow missed the last rotation. So we have an estimate of what it would cost to have a professional person put it all together for us, because this is a very difficult thing for a board to sit down and do individually as members of a board. So the last time it was written by an outside source as well. So it's bringing that all together, and that's about the estimated cost is.
and the planning document is a pretty important piece. I mean, residents might not regularly read it, but it really does provide direction for the select board and the town. And it also is really key when we're going to apply for grants. A lot of the funding agencies, if they have some priority that they want to see that the town is actually supporting that. So, for example, if we were going after the transportation alternative grant for the sidewalks that we got, we need to be able to point back to our master plan to say that the public has said that this is a priority, and they've said it through survey, they've said it through their efforts in the master plan. So when we go forward, we show someone a 10-year-old plan, it doesn't have the same effect as, hey, we've updated this in the past 5 years. And I think it's RSA 674, which puts the responsibility on the planning board to get that done.
Does this show, and I'm going back real fast, the potential growth that we have going on right now?
So it takes into consideration, and I had
Building
a scope.
permits? What is our building permit situation?
Well, so, I mean, on the building permit situation, it's difficult. I was talking with the Department of Energy and Planning about this. Littleton's building permits are so light. Like, for example, we don't require building permits for a lot of internal renovations, so we don't actually know a lot of the work that's being done.
How about new buildings?
We'll know new buildings, but if someone takes say a 2-bedroom and turns it into a 3-bedroom, we're not aware of. There was a parcel recently that added 16 new dwelling units, and there was no permit.
I know this is, and I talked to you about it.
but that shouldn't be.
The
There's
thing
no
is,
requirement. The sewer discharge probably, but there's, because the way our,
Making an addition to a building?
no, doing it within.
The thing I
applied
don't.
for one.
Thank
See,
you.
the thing-
I mean, yes, I agree on the internal stuff, you know, I wouldn't want every time, like somebody redid a bathroom or something,
Right,
have to
yeah.
do that. And that's been the sentiment, you know, not to
Yeah.
micromanage it inside, but if you were actually changing the footprint of the building, I would think that
Right.
you.
So it was a larger building and there was space to do it, so they did. And
Oh,
they did a
inside
great
the
job.
building?
Yep.
Oh,
They did a good job, but
okay, so they weren't, okay, they didn't expand the footprint of the
No,
building,
no.
they just reorganized the inside.
That's
My
right.
question is, the contractors are so busy in this town,
Mhm.
and I can't figure out what's happening. I told you this, I talked to Jamie Clark a month ago. He's busier than he's ever been in the last 15 years, and it's all right here. Now, where are all these wells being dug for? What in the heck is happening in this town? Something's happening in
They're
this
drilling
town.
for oil, oil.
So, yeah, there's a lot of economic activity. I do have the Bureau of Labor information, the Bureau, with BLMI. Recently, I worked with Anita Jocelyn, I believe her name is. She's a statistician there, and she did a snapshot of Littleton just so we could take a look and see what's going on. And there's a lot of activity. The economy
And you don't
is
see
doing
it.
really well.
I mean, as spooky as all get out. It really is.
Well, sometimes silent and steady is good.
Two quick questions. North Country Council, what's their role in the master plan?
So we actually started looking at this with North Country Council, but again, that would be a fee for service.
So
to
they
do that.
would charge us for that?
Yeah, and Tara Bamford is the person that we've got a quote from, and she is, or was the head of planning for North Country Council. Because of our purchase policy, we would get other quotes from other entities that, for the same scope. See if there's-
Because I thought there was money out there for them to do
You know,
that. I mean, as
yeah.
an entity, and
So
it's
the,
funded by
yeah, the interesting thing is,
state entities.
there's not a lot of planning dollars in that way. There's planning dollars, for example, with the sewer, we just got a grant for that, but there's not master plan update money. I know in a neighboring state, they have, I believe it's almost like a guaranteed $15,000 to $30,000 for a town to update its master plan every 5 years, because they think it's important.
So who's, I guess this would be a question for the planning board.
Speak
but
up,
who's complaining about the master plan now? I mean, is it because we're not as marketable with the grant applications? Is that?
It's just out of date, but Mel could probably speak to it. What's the need to update it?
Well, weren't you just saying it needs to sort of be kept up to date so that you can apply for continued grant?
Yep.
I mean, a lot of the grants you apply for require an updated master plan.
Right. Parts of it are over 10 years old, actually. When you read it, you can read the history of the war that went on back on exit, up on
43.
So, yeah. When there was a development that was being projected up there on West Main Street going up towards the hospital. All of that old wording is in there. It's, part of our past agreements or disagreements as a town. That material would go away, and obviously new, more recent developments as well as anticipated developments would be put in there. There was when we did the survey, there was a clear message regarding low-cost public housing, or low-cost housing in town. It was one of the X number of questions we had. It was one that was definitely a no, and which was new compared to the last survey that was done here in town. So just in that area, there's been a shift in attitude, at least among the people that responded to the survey.
So this, the North Country Council or whichever entity would take a look at this, do more surveys?
Well, I think.
I mean, they're gonna have to work in conjunction with the planning board, I would think.
Oh, they would,
Yeah, this is a planning, so
Public meetings and-
this is actually a planning board sponsored
Responsibility.
article, because it's their responsibility, yeah. Yeah,
The only comment I'd like to make about the 10-year plan is, I have a copy of it, it's 2004 plan. I've got a copy of it, I've read a significant portion of it, and I spent a whole weekend correcting errors in it, not correcting data or information, but correcting errors in the plan. So if you're gonna hire somebody to do it, you gotta hire somebody that's gonna do it professionally and make sure it's done right.
I would agree with Ralph. There clearly wasn't a final read of that document in terms of just correcting the grammar and and misspelled words. I mean, there was just, yeah, you're absolutely correct. So the assumption is the person that we hire will clearly not produce, you know, that.
And for $32,000, I'll do it.
You don't have the grammar?
Oh, you're out.
Have a little split.
Wait, we gotta send it out to at least 3 people in here.
Yeah, that's right.
One question.
Get your bid.
So this is a master plan, it's a master plan both in terms of community sentiment, if you would, but also is it a master plan in terms of geographic progression, if you would?
In future.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Land use, for example.
yeah, that's what I mean.
is a
So
section, right?
there's a footprint to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So,
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion and we go ahead and vote on it.
Okay.
Which one are we voting on?
23.
23.
Give Ralph-
Second,
Second.
Heather, she beat you, George.
No, give it to Heather.
Okay, any further questions? Diane, you've heard enough on this?
I have, yes.
Good.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of supporting Article 23 on the Planning Board Master Plan update, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Supported 6-0.
Again, I'll just say, if it can come through grants or something else besides the fund balance, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, we'll do our best to find some
Yeah.
funding, alternate funding.
Okay.
Number 24, the
Yeah.
Opera House Special Fund. There's no impact, there's authority for the Board of Selectmen to expend, and I'm gonna ask Andrew to read that warrant article,
Yes.
because I didn't bring mine.
Okay, yeah. See. To see if the town will change the provisions of the Opera House Building Special Revenue Fund established under RSA 3195-C to restrict 100% of revenues after expenses from the Opera House building rentals to the expenditures for the purpose of improvements, repairs, equipment, events, and upgrades to the Opera House. Such revenues and expenditures shall be accounted for in a special revenue fund currently called the Town Promotion Opera House Fund from 1995 vote, separate from the general fund. Any surplus in said fund shall not be deemed part of the general fund accumulated surplus and shall be used to expend only after approval of the selectmen for a specific purpose related to the purpose of the fund or source of revenue. 2/3 majority vote required.
Really?
One thing I might be cautious of is that word event. You know, you wouldn't want to spend that money on just one event. I think you'd want.
So, well, yeah, one of the things is the,
only word I have.
right, and to speak to that, what happens is right now is we're trying to set aside a little bit of money to get events, because the events actually will cost money. In order to get larger venues or performers, you have to have some power. Like if, for example, there's a regional name that you know you'll sell a certain number of tickets, you might put $5,000 to their agent to book them, and then you might be able to generate, say, $3,000 profit, which would then go into the fund. And the goal would be that this would be a self-sufficient fund to help take care of, you know, not just repairs, but also to keep the venue going. Because what'll happen is, like, this is like a living, breathing organization, and you have to try to go with the seasons. And if you have to wait for town meeting to ask for, you know, say $5,000 to hire Amy Mann, you know, it's going to be difficult to meet the demand.
So who do you authorize the disbursements?
So the select board would have under this article, the select board would have to take it up at a public meeting and discuss it and make a motion to be able to spend.
Right now, there's $3,000 roughly in that fund. The last time it was used was $15,000 was used for the rigging. That was a warrant article to pull that money out. And at this point, there's only $3,000 roughly dollars in there until the books close in 2017.
Right. I think, you know, recently we did the fundraiser, the Parks and Rec did the fundraiser for the child that needed a heart transplant, and they ran a movie night here, and to get the licensing and all that. It costs money. And we did it. We were lucky to have a donation. Flume Media donated the money required to do it, but we probably won't be so lucky when they
Every
try to
time.
get large. So.
At these events right now, are you getting significant numbers of people attending them to make
Yeah.
money from them?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it's growing and
Great.
growing.
yeah. We got to get you to one.
No. No swing dance.
No, you come to the music.
Okay, do I have a motion to support Article 24?
I'll make a motion to support Article
Heather got ahead of you,
I'll
Ralph.
second it.
No, okay. Okay. All those in favor of supporting Article 24, Opera House Special Fund, please say aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Jimmy, you and I?
I'm not.
You're an aye, okay, very good. I had time to
6-0.
have both ears. Yes, 6-0.
Number 25 is dumpster ordinance. This does not have any tax impact, and I'll have to refer to Andrew and Milt for discussion on this.
Should call it dumpster bear, probably, right?
As you know, we did consider passing the ordinance as simply a mosquito prevention ordinance regarding dumpsters that are construction in nature. They're used for construction projects. They're very long. They're somewhat wide, but they don't have covers necessarily.
Known as roll-offs.
I'm sorry?
Roll-offs.
Right, roll-offs. And water accumulates during the summer months, and as we know, mosquitoes can drop millions of eggs in a thimble of water, thimble-sized water. So I've gone around town 2 years ago when I became the health officer and looked inside these dumpsters, and there was clearly water building up, even though they're supposedly having drain holes either on the sides or on the bottoms, but they could become plugged. So we considered that ordinance, and when we had the public meeting, someone from Fish and Game, a representative of Fish and Game, came and asked us to not only consider water accumulation in these dumpsters, but also bear-proofing all the dumpsters in town. And the dumpsters we're referring to are the ones that hold garbage. They're the smaller ones that have lids already, usually. They're made out of plastic or wood or whatever, but they're not considered bear-proofing dumpsters. This dumpster now has had language put into it, and I'm sorry it's taken us this long, but we had a number of attorney people working on this with us, and some of our attorneys, and it took a little bit longer to get this finalized in terms of wording, because we're talking about different kinds of dumpsters, at least 2 different kinds, and one is really addressing simply the bear-proofing issue, and then the other one is addressing the mosquito and water accumulation issue. The company that renovated the Social Security building had those large roll-off dumpsters sitting out in the parking lot, and they covered them every night. With a cover that was tight and it was waterproof. And in fact,
a soft cover?
Yeah, it was a soft cover, but it was a waterproof cover. And in the ordinance, it specifies exactly the type of cover you would be using, as well as on the other dumpsters, how you bear-proof a dumpster by having recessed screws. It's laid out very specifically as to how the proofing should occur.
Have we had any bear problems? I mean, I know other places in the state, we have had a bear problem.
We're number 4 in the state for bear encounters.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we have specific areas of town that have been identified, primarily around Steve's business. No,
Is number 1 Waterville Valley?
I'm sorry?
Is number 1 Waterville Valley?
I don't know, but Lincoln is close to being number 1 or number 2 as well. So I've talked to the town clerks or people representing the towns that already have bear-proofing ordinances. And as I think I brought up at one select board meeting some months ago, it's hard to adopt, but once people in the towns that have these ordinances realized that Fish and Game were having to kill both the moms and the cubs that begin eating out of dumpsters because they won't go back to eating other food. And then they become dangerous to the population. So I know in the town of Lincoln in particular, the town clerk told me that once people realized that they were having to put down these animals because they were getting into the dumpsters and not going back to eating off of what's available in the forests, they began to abide by the law. It took a while for this to take place, but all of a sudden, the reality of what was having to happen struck home, and so they've adopting the ordinance is one thing, having people follow it is another thing. And their experience has been, once people realize the consequences of feeding these animals, either consciously or unconsciously, the ordinances were adopted. So we added this language at the request of Fish and Game to this initial ordinance, which had to do just simply with water control.
So does this mean that if this passes, that the day after, all of the existing dumpsters are obsolete?
No, the dumpsters aren't obsolete, but renovating the dumpsters would have to take place within a period of time.
How much cost do we have renovation-wise per dumpster?
There is sometimes money available. The state of New Hampshire did have a fund available. They got rid of it a few years
Well, I
ago.
mean, what I say about milk, what's it gonna cost Whiting's?
I don't know. I don't know. And that's why we have to have, I think, another public hearing as well on this, but it has to be an ordinance approved by the town, because we're dealing with private property, not just public property. Dumpsters that are sitting on Social Security or they're sitting in the school parking lots, that's public property, and we can, address those directly. But these are sitting on private property. The way the ordinance is written, you have 3 ways to handle your garbage. Either you keep it in your garage and bring it out in the morning, or you use a bear proofing situation, or you take it to the dump. So it's laid out that way, and this wording is going to be controversial.
I mean, I
Is
guess
there any grace, is there time for people in that ordinance, a specific amount of time for them to adhere or make their dumpsters comply?
The ordinance as written doesn't have a time limit. My experience as health officers that I would really provide a lot of time and a lot of counseling with people and a lot of meetings. It's not good to push this hard on the front end, even though we're number 4 in the state, and which is about, over 4 years, I think it was 25 encounters. So we're not talking about a whole lot of
25.
encounters, but
The last year.
either it's 5 a year or it's 25 a year. I don't remember now. It's been some
That's a
time
big
since I
difference.
looked at it. But we have a lot of bear encounters.
It's significant enough that the Fish and Game had a guy come to our meeting when he saw
He did.
our agenda.
And he requested we consider it.
And just to speak to the cost real quick, we like for the contractors, it's been months since, but I called around to like CM Witcher, Casella, and just talked about, is there added cost to the consumer who's renting these dumpsters? And the message I was told is, well, we've already calculated how much it is to have a dumpster. All we do is if a town has a bear requirement, then we just send them one of the ones with the metal ones. They said they don't have a price differentiation for the 2 different types of dumpsters. That's what I was told. So,
Quick story, I did have Whiting's did give me a dumpster, or not give me, but rented me one. And I did ask for that bear proofing on the top, and they did provide one with it. So I think it's a matter of requesting it.
Did they charge you extra for it, Jim?
I didn't ask for the price with that. I wanted it covered bear proof. But they did have a shortage just due to demand. So I was fortunate to have one, but they did say all their inventory was out. So
Right. I think
that's good.
I kind of view this like I view covering the construction dumpsters. We're never going to get rid of all standing water. So I think what we're looking to do is mitigate this as best we can. And over time, that time still undefined, we'll have everything bear proof.
Joe?
There's a cost associated with this, and it's going to be the end user pays always. But just to share with you a quick story, on a construction site nearby here recently, a roll-off, like you mentioned, was on the site, and say, guys are doing some sheetrock work, and they had, say, a barrel of trash, so they carry it out to the roll-off, and they reach over and they dump in, and they dump the pieces of sheetrock onto a bear and her cubs. The bear came jumping out at the sheetrocker. It was humorous because nothing happened, but it got to be a regular occurrence where you know, all it takes is one guy that was told, you know, don't put any household trash in the dumpster, brings a trash bag home from house, throws it in. Now you have it there. The problem snowballed to the point where it was dangerous to go to the roll-off, and then the bears became so desensitized to us that they actually went into our truck. If you left your truck window open, they go in and go right through. They take this. We had insurance claims to vehicle damage inside. The porta potty was next to the dumpster. That caused another whole issue. You'd be in the porta potty, come out and be a bear standing there. And the state ended up coming in, had to trap the bears. That's because they were all or they had to be euthanized or transported away. This was a huge deal. And it was
Took them to Quebec.
It was kept kind of quiet. It was kept kind of quiet, but it was a huge problem that went on for the whole length of the job just a couple years ago, right near here.
Paul?
I'd like to say that before the bear biologist gets the call or fishing game gets the call to come in and to deal with that bear, for the 5 calls that Milt's talking about, we've probably dealt with that particular bear in a minimum of 10 times. So what happens is that, for example, it could be a location on Meadow Street or in a neighborhood. We might deal with that bear several times or receive calls on it, and then eventually when we get to a point when the bear's become a nuisance, either we'll notify fishing game or we'll ask the complainant to do that, and then it gets passed on to either the conservation officer or the biologist. So, you know, what their call ratio is expanded on what our call ratio is on the other end of that. And these bears are running in front of traffic, and they are putting the general public at risk. We're not talking about the wooded areas of the community. We're talking about very condensed, highly populated areas of this community that these bears are running in because these trash receptacles aren't bear proof. So consider that. It's not, it really isn't humorous. Plus my officers and everybody else, they're at risk every time they deal with these bears.
The question my wife would ask is, what do you do about the bird feeders?
True. Bird feeders that are left out in the summertime, and they create a problem. It becomes a surveillance issue. I hate to use that word surveillance, but that's basically what it is. I spend a certain amount of time every weekend just traveling around to the dumpsters that I've already sent letters to, where people have allowed the dumpsters to overfill and the garbage is now sitting on the ground. And I have to say that people have been very good about responding to that, but it's a constant sort of traveling around and checking things.
The bird feeders
Let's move the question.
They're not even close to dumpsters.
What's that, Paul?
The bird feeders can be a nuisance, but let's face it, once the bears destroyed your bird feeder, the problem's gone, right? And for most people, they're either not going to put a bird feeder back up or they'll go buy another one, but we're not responding to bears being in bird feeders. We're responding to bears climbing out of dumpsters and grabbing trash and dragging it all over the place. Those are the calls that we're getting.
Okay, yeah. Diane?
So let's move the question.
Was that Diane's motion?
Yeah.
Move the question?
Yeah,
Okay.
move the question.
All right, no opposition to moving the question. So anyway, 25, I guess I need who's making the motion?
I'll make a motion to accept 25 as written.
I'll second.
I'm taking Diane's motion first.
Okay.
That's okay, fine.
We don't care what you want.
Okay, all those in favor of supporting Article 25?
Aye.
Opposed? Support 6-0.
Thank you.
Ralph, you read the master plan and he checks for dumpsters on weekends? I'm with a fun crew tonight.
Well, I'm not sure whether you want to move to the budget or move to the back or move to EMS.
Let's move to the back.
Okay. This is the petition social service warrant
What
articles.
about
Oh, what
29?
about, yeah,
Oh,
29?
29,
What
I'm
about
sorry.
29?
We already turned it down.
Oh, this is a different one.
Oh,
Yeah.
This is Foster Hill Road repairs petition, which was received, and it has $0 because there was no dollar amount attached to the petition.
Yes.
And I'm gonna have Andrew read the
Okay,
warrant
so
article.
this is a petition received. Here's the language. Foster Hill Road has been on the major repair list for more than 10 years. However, has been deleted from the warrant articles every year. 30 families live on Foster Hill Road and get very little for our tax dollars except repairs and maintenance to our road. We respectfully request the selectmen to keep Foster Hill Road on the warrant article or the 2018 vote to grind, repave, and bring it up to current standards. So that's the petition language that we received, so we're required to put that on. This is no tax impact, it's just a warrant a petition warrant article asking the select board to do something.
Simple.
So, yeah.
Joe, you have any more input or info or thoughts on Foster Hill?
Like there's a warrant article is worded, or the people have said, have spoken. It's been on the, it was on George McNamara's radar. It's on my radar. It's a tough road. It's a tough road to maintain.
But aside from the plan that you already proposed, is there another plan? Is there any further thoughts or?
Yeah, we're working on
Go
it.
ahead.
Yeah, you
All right,
can describe
well,
some of the options we're considering.
We're talking about possibly presenting it in phases.
Steve, if someone's going to speak on this, I can hear Joe, but just barely. Is he
maybe
near a
Kristen.
mic by any chance?
he's got one right in front. Move,
I
move
can
your-
talk louder, Diane.
Okay,
that
thank
better?
you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Good. We're gonna look at tomorrow. Look at breaking this up into pieces. Maybe not bite the apple all. Swallow the apple all in one bite. Break it up a little bit and look at possibly turning it to ledge pack for a year for a period of time, and then with the paving as the end game. That's what I'm kind of looking at right now. We'd possibly reclaim it. We have to reclaim it anyway, so we'd grind the road, reclaim it, roll it flat. We'll have to fix all the culverts need to be fixed and upgraded, and some drainage work to be done, shoulder work to be done, and then add just a 6-inch shim coat of gravel over the whole thing, gravel or ledge pack, and see where that number gets us, and see if that's something more palatable. And then with an asphalt estimate, asphalt is a not volatile market, but it's oil. It's a petroleum-based product. It fluctuates from year to year. But we might present something different for Monday.
Yeah, trying to look at a phase, maybe some kind of a phased approach to
Is
address
there
that.
more consideration to, if we did this, to doing it in-house, if we do it in smaller steps? Or?
Yes. Yep. We can do the whole thing in-house, just that I don't think that's the best. That's best for the town. And we will be doing other construction projects if we don't do this. It's just talking about the 2.5 mile or 2 miles of road. If we were to sub that out, we would still be busy with other projects.
If we vote against this, or vote for or against it, are you still gonna do some work up there this year?
Yeah, we fill in potholes.
Well, I mean, that kind of work, but
Yeah.
one thing that we have to, we're gonna bring the select board an amended, concept, that if they then vote for, we would come back to you to get a vote for. Because if, we go to the people with all no's and they say no, I believe no means no, we wouldn't do work up there, correct?
The only work we would do, we'd keep it so that, we could plow the road, fill in potholes, if a drain line culvert is clogged, basic maintenance. We'd cut the side of the road like we always, some roadside mowing. We'd still do what we can.
Right.
Just that this is clearly, sorry, Dan?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Joe.
Oh.
What's the alternative to that, though? If they do vote no, it means no. But if they do vote yes, and we don't have monies in there
For this one,
to repair it, what kind of liability is that?
What kind of liability is that? I can't really speak to the liability there. I know that if you vote no, right or wrong, I'm still gonna keep the road passable, safe, and do my best out there. I know this spring we'll go through and sweep that road, just like we sweep, all the others, and gonna do everything I can, no matter which way the vote goes. Well, obviously, we wouldn't do as much sweeping, if we're gonna grind it, reclaim it, but, yeah, we'll still give everybody their, give
Yeah.
everything their worth.
And from what Karen is describing, if the vote was no on Article 29, because it specifically mentions a vote to grind and repave, that if the answer was no from the voters, that we couldn't do either of those things. We couldn't grind or repave, even if funds were available, so.
And if the vote is positive, you don't have to do it either.
Right.
Right.
Because there's no money in
There's
this.
still money there, yeah. That's the other one.
Yes.
You, as a committee, you voted no on Article, on my copy, was Article 3, I believe, which was Foster Hill Road repair bond. It was a 2 to 5 no vote.
Yeah.
So,
Well, just the language is different.
oh, I understand.
Yeah.
It's a different article, and
I mean,
it's a petitioned article.
Yeah, it'll probably, can't
Yeah.
speak for everybody, but I call for a vote.
Okay.
It's just, I think it's very specific, so I'm a little nervous about that. Although the spirit of improving the roads is good. Just
Because this is a
the
petition
language
warrant
there.
article, we have to put it on
Yeah.
ballot and put it on as it's given to us.
And if you vote yes, it gives the town more flexibility to potentially produce an alternative phased plan to bring back, eventually bring back to you if the select board agrees to.
Say that one more time.
It would give us more flexibility to
Yeah.
bring a phased plan, if you vote yes here. Yeah.
And there's no downside to voting yes.
No, no downside,
Okay.
no cost.
So moved.
So,
Okay,
hold on. So
okay.
they're just asking that it stays on the list.
That's right.
Doesn't mean anything's gonna get done, doesn't mean any,
No, no,
They
but
just
if, but
don't
if,
want it off.
but if it was a negative and we decided to do something, that becomes a problem.
Yes.
Okay, so motion's made by Diane, seconded by,
Ralph?
okay. All those in favor of supporting Article 29, please say yes.
Yes?
All those
Yes.
opposed?
Yeah.
Okay, supported 5-1. Okay,
Do you want to move to the back page now?
yes, yes.
Warrant
Wait,
article,
how do we have 5-1?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1.
Okay, because everything else we've had 5-0, right?
No, 6-0.
Oh, it's just you came in and changed.
I didn't vote on the Keno one.
He snuck right in.
Silent, silent.
Article 30 is a petition warrant article from Grafton County Senior Citizens Council, and it's for $35,000. The tax impact is 0.048 cents per thousand.
Karen, maybe just as an overview, okay, so the 30 through 41, how many of these have we had in past years and how many are the same?
I looked at some of what was the same, and let's see if I wrote down. Grafton County Senior Council is $1,000 more than what it was last year.
Okay.
The rest of them, there was one other one that was $1,000 different than what it was last year.
And were all these on last year?
No.
No. The Pathways was not on last year.
Yeah, we've already done that one.
Yeah, I don't know that, was Caleb on last year?
I'm looking.
We've already done Caleb. We've already done that one.
Oh, you did, yes, yep. And you've done the path, yep.
The honorable discharge one, that wasn't on last year.
The
Homeless outreach?
CAP Homeless Outreach Assistant Program was not on last year.
So which one?
The CAP,
41.
number 41.
Yeah, we've already voted on that. We've already voted on 40 and 41.
Not 41.
No, not
Or
41.
40,
39 and 40 we voted
oh,
on.
39 and
39
40.
and
Oh,
40.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay,
One other question is, of these articles, only 3 have presented to us this year? Is that correct?
Yep.
Anyone confirm?
Diane, Jimmy's asking how many of these petition articles have actually presented to us.
Excellent.
For this year, just,
I
I
only,
mean, he's
I
been
think I
around
have
for
3.
those. We haven't had quite a few of those presented, very few presented this year.
North Country Home Health and Hospice was not on last year. I don't believe they got their warrant article in on time. Northern Human Services is the same exact as last year, and it was approved last year. Tri-County Community Transit for $4,000 is the same as last year, and it passed. Tri-County Cap Action Home Heating Program was last year, it was approved.
For the same amount of money?
The same amount of money. Above the Notch Humane Society was not on last year, and that's for $5,000. That's new this year. Amanuset Community Health Services, it's the same amount of money as last year, $15,000, and it was passed last year. The Caleb Caregivers, which has already been voted on, the Pathways already voted on, that's new. The CAP Homeless Outreach Assistant Program for $5,000 is new.
And I have an old, from you, listing all the warrant articles. Did you mention just a few minutes ago the Boys and Girls Club?
I did not, but that is this. That's on here, and it was approved last year for $10,000.
The same amount.
Same amount of money.
And how about Birch House?
Excuse me?
Birch House?
That's the same amount of money.
And that's the same amount, okay. Okay, so number 30 is Grafton County, that's the same amount, it was approved last year, but it's $1,000 more this year.
Right.
Boys and Girls Club was approved last year for the same amount of money. Birch House was approved for the same amount of money. Northern Human Services approved same amount.
No, last year they did not get on our, make it on our board.
No, so Northern Human Services, which one now?
Last year, Northern Human Services did.
Yeah, North Country Home and Health was not on
Right,
there last year.
right.
Okay, sorry. But Northern Human Services was on for the same amount of money and
Yes.
approved. Tri-County Community Transit was on for the same amount of money and approved. Tri-County Community Action Home Heating Program, same amount of money and approved.
Correct.
Above the Notch Humane was not on last year.
Correct.
It was on 2 years ago, and it was for 10,000, and it was approved.
Okay.
If I
Okay.
recall correctly, it was double what you're asking.
Okay.
for these.
Amanuset Community Health was on last year, 15,000 and approved. And that's, so anyway, I guess the question I would ask the committee would be, the ones that were on last year and approved for the same amount of money, plus Grafton County Senior Citizens Council, which was on, but is asking for one additional $1,000.
I make a motion.
Is there a sentiment that we would want
Let's do them all at one
to
time.
approve those
Yes.
as,
Agree.
because we voted on in the past and we've supported them over the years? Do we feel comfortable supporting them? Okay,
I got one question on that.
Yes.
It goes back to last year. When, right here, the board said last year, if we don't hear from them, we don't vote on them. Or we vote no on them. That was said right here by the board, by the committee, by us, you guys. I wasn't on the board yet, but you guys said if we don't hear from them, they don't physically come to us, we don't vote on them, we don't, they're no.
I think it was.
Now, are we not doing that this year?
okay. Diane, you have a thought on that?
I totally understand what Ralph is saying, and I would probably agree with him, but I would just prefer to move it tonight, and because we have a lot ahead of us, and if these were approved last year, were on the ballot last year, the voters approved them. I don't want to get, go for an hour discussing it. So I'm going to take the easy way out, Ralph, on this one. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
as long as on the other ones, we don't utilize that same thought that we voted no on them because they didn't show up.
Okay.
We can't use that on any of them then. We'll have to come up with different reasons why we don't vote for
Okay,
them.
okay, so.
Well, I think we can still vote for them, Ralph, but Karen may be able to fill us in a little bit more tonight on that. But what Steve is trying to ask us right now is if we can just move it.
Okay.
Move those that were approved.
Okay.
All right.
So I would entertain a motion to support 30, 31, 32, 34, 35, 36, 38, that's it,
Yeah.
as a group.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, so. Okay, so a motion made by Jimmy, seconded by Heather. Right, correct, okay. All those in favor of supporting Articles 30 through 38, with the exception of 33 and 37. I hope I'm stating that correctly.
Yep.
Okay, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so those are reported 6-0. Okay, so then that leaves us with, if we want to start with 33, which is North Country Home Health and Hospice, and we have a little history on that, Karen, or?
Actually, if you could read the warrant article, because it is a petition warrant article.
To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $21,500 for the North Country Home Health Hospice Agency. The requested fund shall be used to assist in the delivery of home health and hospice services to the residents of Littleton. Estimated tax impact, 3 cents per thousand.
And that's all the information I can give you.
Now, this hospice is the same hospice that operates in conjunction with the hospital?
It will be.
It is part of the north.
I don't know whether it's become that yet or
Well,
not,
it's not
Heather.
official.
They've been talking.
I mean, do we have more than one hospice going?
No.
They're the
This
primary.
hospice is the one at the end of Cottage Street on the right.
Oh, the one, oh, that's not the one I'm talking about, okay, not the one on
This is
the
North Country
Franconia
Home
Road
Health
on the right,
Hospice.
that's not,
You're thinking Amherst Community.
yeah, there you go. Thank you, Bob.
It is the primary
Okay,
home
but
care
it-
agency for this area.
Okay, but if somebody's at Littleton Hospital and they're deemed to be in need of hospice care, is this the agency that
Yes.
performs that
Yes.
function?
They would reach out to them and then make arrangements for home hospice care.
Okay,
And the hospital provides them with funding for certain,
right.
yes.
That's right. And obviously, for any of us who've had, and the reason I'm asking is because any of us who've had contact with that process, I mean, that's a much needed process in the end of life mode, if you would. And from what I've seen, they provide some very, very
Good. Service.
good care, good services, very sensitive, and definitely fill a gap at a time that people are.
It's a difficult service to fund as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd kinda like to know why they came up with 21,500, that's a significant amount.
And last year, Karen, did they just miss the date?
I think they just missed the date. I'm looking at 2016, and I'm wondering, yeah, they were on here for 21,500 in 16, and it passed.
Last year they were in transition with their administration
Yeah.
at this time too. So there could have been the turnover cost
blip.
lapse in that process, but they have a, is it $8 million budget, I think?
Is there really?
Yeah, so I mean, they've got a lot of complicated funding mixes, but they have a huge service base too. I mean, they have over 100 employees.
2015, it was 21.5 too, and it was approved.
Okay.
So moved.
So,
Second.
okay, so we have a motion on 33 made by Diane, seconded by Heather. Okay. All those in favor of supporting Article 33, North Country Home Health and Hospice, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No,
Okay, so that's supported 5-1?
Correct.
Correct?
Number 37, Above the Notch Humane Society. And Andrew, can you read the warrant article for that one too?
Let's see.
That's for 5,000. The estimated tax impact is .007.
What
Per
number,
thousand.
which number is it? 37?
37.
To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to support the above the Notch Humane Society with care and feeding of stray and unwanted animals in our area, which includes planning and building a new local dog park. Estimated tax impact, 0.7 cents per thousand.
Okay. Now, okay, maybe we have more than one humane society?
Yep.
No, I believe that they're the only service available this far up.
What's
Well,
Well,
second chance?
Maloney, the one out on Lisbon Road, out on 302.
Is that for
Well, maybe,
cats?
I'm sorry, maybe there is.
That's for cats, right?
Yeah, that's cats.
Oh, that's
That's
Ketchum,
second chance
okay.
animal rescue?
Yeah, second
That's
chance.
second chance.
Yeah.
This is in Easton, I think it's in Easton, isn't it? I think
Yep.
their major operation, but they pick up within the region. They missed last year because the person that was delegated to bring the petitioned article to the town didn't make it. She didn't make it within time, I guess. And I think, was it 2 years ago, they asked for double that amount?
They asked for 5,000 in 2016 and were approved for that.
They were, it was 5,000, not 10. Okay.
Right.
I stand corrected.
'Cause I remember, there was a guy, as I remember, not the
It was Mr. Larkham, he was the principal at.
Yes, that's
high
right.
school.
So that was 2 years ago that he
It was
came?
2 years ago.
Wasn't last year. Okay, that's right, it was Rich.
Yeah.
Huh, okay.
Is that where we take stray animals? Is that
Right.
where we take them to? Where do we take
No.
them? No, where do we take them?
We contract with the Littleton Pet Center.
Okay. Do they use this Humane Society?
I don't know. If they have an animal, generally, if an animal's been there 10 days, then they're tasked with finding a shelter. And there's the Humane Society above the Notch, and then there's Riverside Rescue. But they will not release an animal to a kill shelter. They only do non-kill shelters. So
Paul,
a shelter like above the Notch would take in an animal like that and try to find a home for it.
And
Now,
Riverside Rescue is,
It's it's in Vermont.
Concord,
It's in Silver, I
Vermont.
believe.
okay, different from the, and what do we call the cat?
Oh, yeah, second chance animal
Second-
rescue.
But that's only cats.
I believe so.
So this one here, this petition warrant article, 5,000, they're building a new building in
Yes.
Franconia. Franconia. And they're gonna put, if this calls for building a new local dog park, and I'm assuming that's gonna be in Franconia. So they're looking for money from us to build a building over there and build a,
Are they looking
A
at
new
our,
dog park in
are they
Franconia.
looking at our landfill?
I don't know. So this is separate from our dog park commission. Yeah.
We did present to the dog park committee.
They did.
Yeah, I was there for that one, just to say, hey, this is who we are. And
Did they mention where they were gonna build?
he said that they did have funding should that commission or committee find the need for a dog park.
Okay,
So I
Hmm.
can't speak for much more than what he presented.
okay.
And I believe the chair has his contact information.
So did you hear that, Diane?
I didn't hear Jim's response, no, I
Hey,
didn't.
Diane.
Hi.
You have to catch it on channel 2.
Yeah.
That'll be too late for my phone.
I know. So the above the Notch did come to the dog park committee maybe last month and presented, who they were and what they do, and did say that they might have some funding for assisting with the dog park should the community find the need for it. Did you hear me?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Okay, yep.
I'm turning the phone up sideways, Diane, so you can hear.
Okay, thank you. I heard that. I just don't have any inkling of one way or the other. I can understand what Ralph was saying about it being in a different community, but we also go back to the fact that if each community is trying to do these things, replicate, that we have to work together at times. Does anyone have any other, persuasion to help me make my decision?
I just would say that this is one of those cases where if they didn't come and present a good case, it's hard to know where that money is going. So I kind of agree with Ralph in that this was where
Yeah.
they come and presented, and I had a strong
Yeah.
you know, knowledge, knowing what I'm,
I was just there for when you presented at the.
Right,
So it's.
Yeah.
I
But-
have to agree, Heather.
All right, so we move the vote?
We can move the vote.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, first, do I have anybody supporting, I need a motion first. Who's gonna make a
I'll
motion to
make a
support
motion.
37?
I'll make a motion to accept
And
Article 30, well,
this,
to accept Article 37, then we can vote yes. or no.
that's right. So motion made by Ralph, seconded by
Me.
Diane, okay. Okay, all those in favor of supporting Article 37, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
no.
Okay. Okay, so,
And Karen, if you wouldn't mind, I think someone from the committee should explain this to them. I just don't want them to think that we're, not interested in helping animals, but they do need to present to us. So if one of us would contact them just to kind of explain that, do you think that's?
Jim can do that.
Sure.
I agree.
Well, or the,
Yeah, well, be nice to have somebody do it.
yeah, since I supported it, I guess I should.
And they might come to the deliberative session and give further information where the voters that go to vote
Yeah.
could change their mind, could vote for this.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll see Mr. Larkin tomorrow at the high school. I can tell him if you want me to, and I'll explain it in terms of.
yeah. So if you'd like to make his case, he should come to the deliberative session and speak to the article.
And he did 2 years ago, I know. He spoke at the deliberative session as well as, well, maybe not before, but I know he spoke at the deliberative. So.
Okay?
I know there was a residency question with him, and he had reached out to Jackie about helping out with the delivery session. I was surprised he was here tonight, but he did reach out to her to help.
Make that motion to authorize a non-resident
Yeah.
to speak, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. 41?
41 is CAP Homeless Outreach, and this is for Outreach Assistance Program. It's $5,000. The tax impact is .007 per thousand, and I'll let Andrew read it.
Okay, it says to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 for Tri-County CAPS homeless programs. These funds will support essential prevention and intervention services for individuals who are experiencing housing issues. Such services include rental assistance, security deposit loans, transportation for appointments, and case management. Tax impact is 0.7 cents per thousand.
This money does go to the town when you guys pay motel bills and stuff like that, does it?
I don't believe so. We do that out of the welfare budget or
Okay.
welfare fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can tell you that
Huh?
we will call Tri-County first. And if they have a bed available, then the homeless person we're dealing with, as far as the police department, the homeless person we deal with, we make arrangements to get them to their homeless shelter. If they're not available, then we refer them to the town.
Do you refer very many to CAP, Paul?
What's that?
Do you refer very many or large percentage to CAP?
It's the first calls to CAP, and then if they're not available, it's to the town. So I can't give you a percentage. It's
Okay,
just-
okay, well,
They only have so many openings in their shelter.
yeah,
But is it one a week, one a month?
one day.
One a day? Wow.
I would say more than one a month.
Okay.
Sometimes it's more than one a week.
Yeah, okay, but give an idea. Okay.
Is that shelter in Lancaster?
There's one in Lancaster. We have to provide sometimes the transportation out too, so.
The Tri-County Cap, which is the folks that had
The bus.
funding issues here we had the
Yeah, they
big
went,
funding issue here 5 or 6 years ago. They dug their way out of that pretty well, better.
yeah, they're in
Very
good shape
much in
now.
good standing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think they had a change in administration, yeah.
This is another one that I'd like to be able to hear from and hear what they've got available or, what their funding stream is.
This is, because I know, I'm familiar, I don't know why I know full, like a lot of the story, but, they do have someone who's relatively new to this program, administering it. So I think she found out about the appropriations, very late in the game, and I think they got their, like, petition in, like, the day of that it was due, because she found out about it. But I know they've also done this year for the first time a number of other fundraising events, to raise money for the same program, so they are actively seeking funds, to support the program in other ways, in addition to town appropriations. So you can take that for what it's worth, good or bad, but, I guess, like you said, Ralph, my only other reservation is when if someone first time applying for appropriation, submitting a warrant article,
And not making a
is
presentation.
it made clear to them that they should present, or I just don't know how everybody knows that they have the opportunity to present. And I'm just wondering that for future.
Yeah.
But they would know, yeah. Yeah, so the ones who, I believe the ones that we knew usually come in, that we reach out to them to let them know. But a one like this that comes in at the last moment,
And
yeah.
that's the weird thing too, is that we
Yeah.
provide people the opportunity to present before the deadline.
Right.
So,
And it's hard because by the
so
time the
hard.
deadline gets here, you really have a limited amount of time
I know.
before we have to post the final budget, so.
I'm just kind
Yeah.
of talking out loud and
I
not
know.
making a judgment about it, but.
Yes, Diane?
I just think that Chief Smith has spoken about it. Heather has given us some background history, and maybe we can overlook that they haven't. We can vote on it one way or the other, and just move it right now. And then if Heather would mind, if you know the
I do.
contact people.
I'd be happy to follow up.
If you wouldn't mind contacting them to let them know what the procedure is
Yep.
for the future.
Will do. I make a move that we vote for Article
41?
41.
A second? All those in favor of supporting Article 41, cap homeless outreach, please say aye.
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 Nay.
No.
Okay, so that's supported 5-1.
Next motions to.
Thank you, everyone, for
Tino?
being patient. That the procedure hasn't been completely followed. We'll try our best next year to make sure it does. And I appreciate those that are contacting these agencies just to make them aware of the procedure. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have an email address of all these folks?
You'll probably find one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably, I mean, again, not necessarily to have an open invitation for people to come ask for money, so to speak, but, those who are, regular and obviously causes that have been deemed to be worthy, probably wouldn't be bad October 1st or something to send out an email. And I think, Diane, from the Budget Committee standpoint, this could actually be earlier in the process than later. We could actually have a meeting for outside agencies early. It's not as time sensitive, obviously, as the police department bringing their budget because they need to get it together. I mean, if their recommendations and they would like to come and plead their case, we could actually do it early in the process.
We could do it, but we're also have to be sensitive to the deadline because a lot of people scoot in right before the deadline, and that may be after one of these meetings, but at least we would probably have the majority done by then.
Okay. A thought, anyway. Okay.
Warrant Article 42, property tax credit for honorable discharge veterans. This is a petition warrant article. At this time, we have no calculation of a tax impact in 2018. In 2019, it will affect the tax rate because we will be adjusting the taxes when we get ready to set the property taxes by that credit. And the current credit actually affects 147,500 for the current vet credit that we have, the war credit that we
Okay.
have.
So that's probably 18 cents.
Are you aware of what this one's all about?
I'm gonna ask him to read it.
No, I mean, besides reading, it really doesn't
statute.
tell you
Yeah.
reading it.
Right. It opens up the, right now, and I couldn't give you all the specifics, but I know that right now the credit requires you to have served during specific times or to carry certain medals. And
Okay.
from what I understand, it alleviates some of those
I
requirements.
get $500 a year.
Yeah, really opens it
Right.
up, right.
But also what it does, and this is the first time this has ever happened, widows can maintain that tax credit. Because right now, under the law, if the veteran passes away, all VA benefits go away for the widows. And they can't continue to get the tax credit. Yes, they can't continue to get the tax credits. They can't keep their license plates anymore. They have to turn those things in. So now, what this law does is allows the widow to keep that tax credit. So I've been studying this one.
Just in this aspect, Ralph, or just in this aspect?
That's the main part of it.
Yeah.
It does not increase, right now our tax rate is $500. This does not increase it to 1,000 or any higher. All this does is changes some of the wording of who's eligible, who's not.
Right.
But it mainly allows the widows to continue getting the tax credit.
Yeah, and it broadens the veterans who qualify.
Anybody who's
Right.
been,
Yeah.
and
right.
should that actually be honorably discharged?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yes.
It is on.
No, LY.
No, yep. Well, if it says that on the petition, then that's the way we have to record it. But I'll check, make sure.
We can correct the spelling at
I think
deliberative
Well,
honorable
whatever.
honorable discharge is right, Steve.
Yeah. Just because of the way they're sentenced, I think it should be
Yeah.
honorably discharged veterans, as opposed
I don't know how the
to.
hell I did it,
But in any case.
Maybe we gotta go back and check that.
But Ralph, is there a movement also to address your other issue about veterans' benefits to a widow once the veteran passes away?
Is there a movement?
Yeah.
This is
The law, the state is allowing that law now to happen.
What you mentioned about widows of veterans losing the veterans' benefits once the veteran passes away.
Right, that's, with the VA,
Yeah.
the veteran gets all the veteran benefits, but once the veteran dies, all veteran benefits go away.
And that's still the case.
That's still the case.
That's not-
This just is basically covering taxes,
Yeah.
property
Okay, I
taxes
understand.
and widows.
But the larger issue, which you were alluding to, that obviously it must create some situations where the spouse passes away and.
Well, you can imagine, like I'm retired military.
Yeah.
If I pass away, my wife only gets 50% of my retirement pay,
Yeah.
and she loses $500 tax credit. So that's the big benefit here, is that she'll get to keep the $500 tax credit. Now, that's gonna be a tax impact, because widows at this point haven't been able to keep them, so you'll see a significant number of widows will be allowed to keep them.
I've got a 10-year younger wife, and I would like,
George.
yes. Well, nobody my age can put up with me.
That's what that law is all about.
Okay, thank you for the input,
Thank you.
okay. All right, okay, so is there a motion to support Article 42?
I'll make a motion to support Article 42.
I'll second.
Made by Ralph and supported by George. I'm gonna give them because them both wearing the,
Well, it should be commissioners.
This is an old man.
okay. All those in favor of supporting Article 42, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Jimmy, yes, no? Yes, Heather? You, yes, okay.
6-0.
6-0.
Okay.
Heather, forgive my hearing on occasion.
So do we want to talk about the fire department EMS
What else?
or budget?
What else do we have to talk
We have
about?
a budget.
What is left?
What do we see
What
from-
are we gonna accomplish by talking about that?
Well, so I do have an update from the commission that might help.
That wouldn't- okay.
Yeah, if you want to take it up.
Is that what you want?
No, it's on that, an update
Okay,
from the
but
commission.
before we
Yeah.
jump to that, so what do we have left that we need to address tonight? Just
We
get-
have the operating budget. We have a little bit of discussion, I believe, on Foster Hill road repair bond, which may be changing.
Okay, so 3 and 4.
And I thought we voted on Mill Street.
I thought we did
We
too.
voted on Mill Street
Yeah.
and Foster Hill.
Yep, yeah, those two have already been
So we got election of officers and proposed budget. That's what's left.
Heather, do you have the vote from last time on those?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I can
ma'am.
speak for my two colleagues. We would really like you to address the issue of the budget tonight. We're meeting Monday morning, and we really need your feedback on our budget.
No, we certainly intend to, I just wanted to get what we have left to address, so, the Mill Street bond,
The 7-0.
okay, we just didn't enter that.
It's entered on the second level down where the
Oh, okay, sorry.
proposed, and number 3, Foster Hill Road Repair Bond, that was voted as 2 yes, 5 no.
Right,
So it was again, a vote against it.
okay. In its current form, which Joel may bring back to us, is a different,
Yeah, we will.
okay. Okay, so anyway, so we have to address
The default the proposed budget,
number 4, and,
number 13, 14, and 15,
And
which
that-
now have $0 in
okay,
them.
that's it, okay. So, which would we rather do first?
Let's do the town.
I could blow through those 3 that you might be, happy with, if you want.
Okay, and
Okay.
we'll give you the lead on that. So we're gonna discuss 13, 14, and 15 together.
You do them all together, yeah?
You know, as the amendments to the Constitution, 13 set the slaves free, 14 made them citizens, and 15 gave them the right to
Oh,
vote.
come on.
Oh, no.
We haven't got time for that stuff.
We got through it already.
Well, hopefully there's no correlation
Well,
there.
the scene, obviously it was
Yeah.
Jackie, well,
Okay.
Martin Luther King just a couple days ago,
That's true.
and Willie O'Ree at the Bruins.
Can
Yeah,
we
that's
hear
right.
can we hear why we got
Yeah.
$0 in there? And are they being taken off the warrant
Jeff,
article?
no, that was just an aside.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
No, get into the real. Yes.
So, yeah, it's gonna be, my recommendation that we, take these off. The commission met last night, went over, some of the proposals. There was a proof of concept presented for, fire-based EMS. And the commission, really wanted to, be relieved of some of the pressure, the timing pressure, and more time to look into all the options. There's a lot of moving parts, so, they are directing the town, or they made a motion to request that the town enter into a shorter term contract. So I'm working, right tonight, actually, on, negotiating a 1 year to 18-month contract so that we won't find ourselves under the gun again next year. We'll have a direction within maybe a few months, but then.
Was this with Cadillacs?
I'm talking with both Calix and with Golden Cross, and one of them, I won't say anything because I'm still talking with them.
Yeah,
but-
I know, just,
Yeah.
So we're looking at removing these from the warrant article,
Mm-hmm.
and the 240,000, which is in the budget line,
That'll-
will remain.
So that is what we have to cover EMS for 2018.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
okay, we have 240 in the budget, which would cover what's been talked about already. If we do the 18 months, the other 6 months is gonna come in next year's budget.
That's
Correct.
correct.
That's right,
Yep,
so
yep.
we're working on that.
And I'm working on a deal that will keep us within our budgeted amount, if the budget's approved.
Yeah,
Yep,
I think that's,
yep.
I think that's really
Judicious.
wise of the commission, and I appreciate that for going in that direction.
so what, if any, action do we need to take on 13, 14, or 15?
Nothing, we can just remove from there.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's go to the town budget.
That's just, okay.
Before we get into the town budget, if you look at the back side of the page, it shows you the 2017 tax rate for the town was $8.51. If the estimated default budget with all the warrant articles passed, we're estimating the tax rate at $8.37. This is a decrease in the tax rate of 14 cents per thousand. Again, if you look at the estimated proposed tax rate with all the warrant articles for 2018, we're looking at $8.57 per thousand, and that's an increase of 6 cents per thousand.
That's the Proposed budget.
Proposed budget and all the warrant articles.
Real fast, like, I make a motion, we pass it. I think they've done a really good job. There's some places that they could do better maybe, but I think overall they've really done a good job.
Pass which one, the default or the proposed?
The proposed.
I'm going to second it, and then we can open it up for discussion. That way, the motion's on the floor.
Yeah.
As I said, there's probably places that could be changed, but overall, I think they did a great job.
It's been seconded, right?
Yes?
Proposed by
It's
George.
open for discussion now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Who was the second?
Diane?
Diane. All right.
So, any of those changes, George? Bring those 6 cents back?
Everything else is going up.
Yes.
That's assuming all the warrant articles pass.
That's including all the warrant articles together. And whether all the warrant articles be approved, it may end up being down below.
What are some of the significant differences between, the just as a reminder, between the proposed and the default in dollars, big dollars?
Well, we have in the executive offices, we have the part-time economic planning admin assistant for the town manager, 25 hours per week. It would start April 1st. We have some time increase currently with the health officer salary because there's more time and effort put into this position than what there had been in the past. And it is something that does take a considerable amount of time to do. We have a 3% increase for all non-union employees. In the town clerks, we have a little bit of money for training because she has just hired a new deputy and the current deputy is going to be retiring. She's actually going to go part-time.
For town clerk's office.
Town clerk's office. That's not for me. Under tax collecting, the current tax collector is roughly working 35 hours a week. This would bump her up to 37.5 hours per week. There's some adjustments, and this was done in the default too, with job divisions between my department and personnel administration. There's no dollar difference other than the 3% increase.
Can I, under financial administration permanent salaries, the 2017 approved was 82,000.
Correct.
The 2018 proposed is 96. That's because,
Well, if
all it says is 3% increase.
Well, the admin assistant, instead of being 5% working for out front, she's roughly working 50% of her time for my office, and this is a truer reflection of what she's doing.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking, oh.
Yeah, so
that's,
yeah,
that's where the big change is.
Wow.
It's a reduction in the exec line, executive salary, because it used to be all under executive offices. So we adjusted
But
the
then on
time.
top of that, you asked for a part-time assistant.
I have a part-time assistant.
No, I'm in the executive office.
yeah, I have nobody, so yeah, I need somebody. It's pretty busy.
You do go home at night though, right?
Sometimes before 10, so. And then I work from there.
In assessing, we've got some contractual increases, which are also included in the default. Under personnel administration, the increases in notices and publications, that's for job vacancy announcement. This year, I've already spent $4,467. Excuse me, that was 2017. So I've increased it from 1,000 to 2,000. I've increased the employee relations for training, for town-wide training from $250 to $500. So those are some of the changes that are within this budget, in the proposed. There is no significant changes in the permanent positions other than the 3%, in planning and zoning.
And increased hours.
Salaries. General government buildings, we have a contract increase, but that was also in the default budget, so there's no differences in that. Under cemeteries, they've asked for a $1,500 increase, and that is in the proposed, not in the default. Under advertising and registration, advertising and associations, there is a change in the dues for New Hampshire Municipal Association, North Country Council. There is an increase in general notices in the papers. Under other government, general government, there was no change to the airport, and that question was asked of the selectmen to see if they were going to bump it up to what the airport was asking for. It was decided to leave it at $6,000 and listen to whatever the budget committee decided to recommend.
Well, I won't win that one. We talked it over before and everybody was for it, except me.
In the police department, we have some update to the GPS units. It's various throughout the different parts of the department. Under uniforms, we got a $2,000 increase in dry cleaning, the price increases. We've got price increases in telephone and communication. We've got, let's see, we're eliminating a few things in the budget under professional services, photographic. Just going through some others. Some of the facility maintenance, there's been some adjustments throughout that budget. That's actually a reduction.
But most of this is minutia, if you will.
Yeah, those are all,
Joe, these sidewalk plow, where does the sidewalk plow stand? Huh?
We passed it.
Yeah, that was a warrant article.
5 to 1.
So, yeah.
Okay, so.
And then we had another warrant article that would help to pay for that, so there would be no tax impact.
Right, and your $5.
He was
registration.
working at Fanny out down.
And Joe, you're still, obviously you're exploring whatever, but this will cover whatever it is you decide to do. You may find some better options, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So.
And I brought it to your place of business today, and I tried to drive by Ralph's house today with it, to show him with that, that's right, what you guys went around with.
I was
Oh,
going
You meet the
the other
Lord?
night he was having a heck of a heck of a time down in West Main.
Yeah.
He was really, he does do a good job.
I say we will.
Okay,
You won't be able to handle that trailer, it's used to wheels.
A couple of thoughts.
yeah.
With the economic planning, that part-timer, I know some of your time is going to be spent with the sewer. I guess I'd hope that some of your time would be spent with the economic planning portion of it. And, the health officer with the zoning ordinances, hoping that those will reduce your time.
Jim,
that you're out
speak
in
up,
that.
please.
Can you speak up?
Jim,
Now I sound like I'm yelling. With the health officer position, I was just hoping that some of the ordinances would reduce some of the additional time spent looking at some of the dumpsters and the dog waste.
Yeah.
So those are my two thoughts. And with the planning and zoning, I'm on the planning board, and I think I've only seen the zoning officer once, so I'm not sure
We can
what
talk.
particular he needs the extra time for. Ralph, I don't know whether you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I made a proposal to the town to take a look at both the safety officer and the zoning officer, because I thought $2,000 to $5,200 for 1 year is a huge jump.
Yeah.
So I made a proposal to bring it up to that amount over a 3-year period on a 3-year contract, and give us the 3 years to get it up to that point. So in the budget, I just feel that that's too big a jump
Yeah.
for 1 year. That's $3,200 a year. And I realize, I don't know about the zoning officer. I think I've only met him once in all of our zoning meetings.
We went through a transition with our zoning officer, maybe about a year ago.
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
probably
do know that Milt puts in a lot of time on the safety officer part of it.
The health.
Yeah, well,
But I was trying to look at the budget, because if you look at the budget, the difference between the default and the proposed is $148,000.
Yeah.
Which you're all gonna say, oh, that's nothing, but it is. It's a significant amount when you can actually look at another year going less than,
Okay.
you know, with a negative.
Okay.
So that's why some of the proposals I made, but I don't see a whole lot of the changes made in
These
here.
are just
I think one thing,
That's all.
Yep.
Paul?
Just a thought.
I certainly understand what you're talking about, Ralph, and those deductions, but I can speak personally in the 25 years that I've worked here. Milt is the only health officer that my department's familiar with that comes in routinely, meets with us, we go on inspections with him. That never occurred. And because of his expertise and presence, I believe our community is safer because of it. I don't believe that the current stipend that is appropriated to the health officer is outlines any of the work or is representative of any of the work that our current health officer does. And I'm just speaking on behalf of that. If we had somebody, like some of the previous health officers, I can certainly understand your concern for the increase, but the amount of time that he puts in, even that amount doesn't really cover the time and dedication that Milt puts into this process.
Right. And Milton, I think your point was, I mean, obviously you're looking to vacate this position yourself. And your point was that if we have any hope of finding a successor who has the interest, ability, or whatever to do it, that we're going to need to.
My recommendation was to have this position reporting administratively to the town manager, be part of the staff meetings, maybe not every one, but where it's pertinent to have the person there, and assume that there's 10 hours a week being put into this position. When I vacate this position, when I turn 100 next year, just joking, but we need to be able to recruit into this position.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that it would be perhaps a retired nurse, retired doctor, I carry a master's degree in public health, but I received it 40-some years ago, and it didn't have to do with what we're dealing with here. But the point is that $2,000 a year annualizes to 96 cents an hour. And so no one's going to take this position who perhaps can continue on with what I'm trying to build up here.
it's a stipend.
It's a stipend now at 2,000, but I think if we're looking at 10 hours a week, 520 hours a year, some weeks are going to be less than that, other weeks are going to be clearly much more than that. And the assumption is $10 an hour is what we have to work on. And what I said to Andrew is, if it doesn't work out that way, if we have no way of tracking this more closely, then we can look at that again. But clearly, the amount of work that the state expects this position to do is worth it. At least being a part-time position, not stipend, but assumed part-time.
Diane?
Well, I'm just curious. I kind of am going between what Chief Smith just said about past health officers and the current one. How do we, if we were to bump this up, how do we guarantee that the next person is going to be as active as you have been? Is there any type of job description? Is there any written expectations of reports to the town?
Yeah, there is a job description. We took the state RSA position and we increased it. We're asking for a 2-year degree. Right now, the only way the state will approve the person is to have the select board bring a person forward and approve it. And so there isn't any education requirement, there isn't any experience requirement. It's simply a selectman's call. So we did write a job description, and we have that on file. And I do reports quarterly. I'll be doing one on Monday morning, I believe. And it goes over the various categories that I'm responsible for, areas I'm responsible for. Right now, I can tell you, since I've been in this position, April 2016, I'm on my 89th referral. And some referrals are one-time events, others go on for some time. There's an awful lot of tenant-landlord issues that we're facing under RSA 48A, which is the tenant's rights under the state law.
In addition to school.
And I just surveyed the school, and I gave the high school tentative approval. They have 3 areas, it's the minor areas in one area of the school that have to be improved upon. I approved Bronson, the middle school last year. I'll be going to Lakeway next year. These are big inspections, which involve other people as well. But the major time and effort is spent clearly with tenant complaints and septic system issues, this sort of thing.
And looking back to previous years, I think basically that stipend or whatever was basically just to have somebody on call. There was no proactive schedule there, so it's just that if you needed somebody,
that's true.
They were there.
And like one of the reasons Milt is even in this position, and the same thing goes with the zoning officer. There's now job descriptions in there, but the town changed expectations for these positions and wanted to put some accountability measures in so that we could move from being reactionary and be able to really work with the issues that are out there. And as George has said, something's happening in Littleton. Littleton's very busy, and so the town, you know, you may not hear about all the wells that are being dug, or you know, all the developers who are coming in looking at subdividing their land, or you know what's happening. But the demand is really increasing, and you know, we'll be seeing the results of this over the next few years. But we have to be able to meet that, and we have legal obligations, and we can be liable for things. And in order for us to do that, we really need to be prepared with the time, so that we don't let things slip through the cracks. And you know, Milton has been doing that. He's doing an amazing job, and he's been working so closely with planning, zoning, police, fire, for even code and safety inspections. And the same thing goes with zoning, where you know we've had it at such a level where somebody was doing it kind of part-time whenever there was kind of something to go check out, and you know we get a little bit of information. But now we're at a point where you know we kind of used a college guy who's graduated, and at some point he's probably going to want to move on to a full-time position. And I don't think that it would be hard pressed to find somebody to be able to do all the requirements they're legally required to do with the funds that we have available.
Let me interrupt you, because I want to go back to what my thought process is. You're looking at Article 4, and the people are going to read, okay, do you raise and appropriate $9,170,000? If not, the budget will be $9,035,000. As a taxpayer, most people are going to come to the deliberative session. They're not going to come and listen to what all these good things are. What they're going to do is sit down and say, 9,170,000 versus 9,035. Well, we'll say no, because I'll go with 9,035. That doesn't get any increases. That doesn't get your increase. It doesn't get any of those increases. So my thought is, if you could bring the proposed budget to or just under the default budget, and the things that you really want out of the proposed budget will then be there. Some of them will be there. Not all of them, but some of them. Because right now, you're not going to get any of that if it's voted against it. That's kind of why I said, well, let's do that over a 3-year period instead of all at once. I made a suggestion to reduce your salary, which is a significant increase. But I'm just saying that the town people are going to vote for the lower amount, and then nobody's going to get anything that's in the proposed budget.
Yeah, although that doesn't tend to happen. Heather?
I
think it does.
I'm glad Ralph sort of brought the discussion back to the overall budget, which is really what we're talking about, whether or not as a budget committee, are we supporting in favor of the proposed budget do we feel as a committee that the town's made responsible? You know, we've had discussions all fall about this, the town has made a number of revisions, and I guess I just want to kind of remind us all what we're voting on is whether or not we feel that this proposed budget has been responsibly done, is spending taxpayer dollars wisely, and we're not going to agree with every line item as to whether or not there's been an increase or not, but in general, I feel like we, as a committee, are supposed to vote as to whether or not, in general, we feel like it's a good proposed budget. So I just feel like we should move that to
Just
a
comments.
vote. Yeah, no, that's fine, I just.
There's been,
I agree with Heather, and I also see what you're saying, Ralph, that we have to move the town forward without the fear of always looking at the default budget. And if we feel that the items in the proposed budget are moving us forward, now we can all disagree on certain aspects of it, for certain, and that's where the discussion came up, but we are to a point now that we haven't really taken anything out. Maybe we can make recommendations later on for that, but I agree with Heather, it's been done responsibly, I think it's moving us forward, and we can't always live in the fear of the default budget. That how we vote on the proposed budget also gives a clear message, one way or the other, to the voters that it has been responsibly done. The items in there are moving us forward, are worthy of the voter support. So, or not, if we vote no on it. So I think we need to move it or identify specific things that all of us can agree on that need to be removed.
Karen, one question. In your computations on the back side of the big page, as far as tax rate, but there's no reliance in here on application of surplus to arrive, other than the ones that are specifically in the warrant articles. But
Right.
we're not assuming anything beyond that.
no.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, I guess, are we ready for the question? We have a motion to support Article 4 made by George P. Kirk and seconded by Diane. All those in favor of supporting Article 4, the proposed town budget, please say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Okay, so that's supported 6-0.
Okay, can I leave now?
No,
Yes, I can.
no,
No.
George,
No, George,
School.
you can't.
it'll be quick, George, don't leave yet.
Not
Please,
yet, George.
we need you, George.
You got a form?
Okay. Anything else, folks?
I'm not. I'm interested on your vote on the school budget.
Okay. The only, I guess, closing comment that I would make for what it's worth, and this certainly applies to highway, police, fire, transfer station, and town for that amount. We've added a fair amount of bodies, partial bodies or full bodies. And, if there's anything that costs us long-term, it's the bodies. I just chatted with Joe, for example, about his 10-wheeler, which I think is a well worthwhile, try. Anything that we can do, investing in a piece of equipment that makes the existing workforce more efficient tends to be a way better application of funds. So just as a comment, we have approved in here a fair amount of expansion in the labor force, but that is what tends to haunt us. And I know obviously Paul would have comments about stuff that that he needs a body to do. But if there's anything mechanical that can happen, if these 10-wheelers, Joe, produce a much better plowing experience, if you would, obviously that'll give us some insight into the how many people we need and where we best apply.
Yeah.
And if it works out well, obviously we end up going to a fleet of 10-wheelers or 2 or 3 or 4 more, then that'll give us some insight into how. It's just, obviously the rest of society, Heather, and that's the business you're in, computerization, right? so that people can be that much more productive, and it's certainly something we need to focus on, you know, just government as well. So, okay, well, obviously, I thank you all very much for that, and we do have to address the school, George, so I don't think the school is gonna be a long discussion, George, but please, I know this is cutting into your cocktail time.
Sure, on behalf of the select board, thank you for the work that you do.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you too. Thank you for all the time.
I think you guys did a good job, I really do.
Okay, on the school side, and for those who have your handouts from the last, I mean, basically there's five issues from the handout. Find the right pages. We have the operating budget, which Ralph, as you mentioned, obviously is very close. The proposed operating budget and the default budget are equally close. I mean, there is, you know, Ralph, to some degree.
What page were you on?
Well, we can be on page 37. That's right. You know, there is a strategy on default budgets. When the short history on this, having nothing to do with Articles 13, 14, and 15, you know, was that when there was a proposal to become a Budget Act town, about giving people the opportunity to vote on a budget other than at the town meeting, somehow, I don't know whether it was discussed, overlooked, forgotten, or whatever the case may be, but the first year that they did it, there was no default budget, and there were various communities that developed a budget, the budget went to vote, and the budget failed. And so they had no budget. So I don't know what had been discussed prior to that, but there were a lot of holes in that initial legislation, and so they had to go back to the drawing board and say, well, we need to have a fallback position if the budget doesn't pass. So that's how the default came into place. There is a fair amount of wiggle room, if you would, on both the part of the select board and the school board in terms of determining what the default budget is. And legislation allows them, through definition, to make a lot of decisions that can actually raise that default budget up higher than what it otherwise might be. I mean, Karen always tells you for sure whatever contractual agreements are in there become a part of the default budget, and that is all true. But even speaking beyond that, there can be some other items that that play into that also, that are kind of at the discretion of either the school board or the select board. So anyway, that's how those figures can many times end up being close to each other. My wife forgot what it was. Anyway, so on the school side, we have the operating budget, we have 2 labor articles, and we have 2 maintenance articles, if you would, one for equipment and one for building. So it's 5 articles in total that they're proposing that they explain to us. So I guess I'm opening the floor now to anything that was presented to us on Tuesday that we would like to have further discussion
We're
of.
talking about just the operating budget now.
Well, we can start with the operating budget.
I make a
Sure.
motion we accept the operating budget since it's $24,000. The default budget is more than the budget.
Okay. So on the operating budget,
It's right, wrong, or indifferent.
okay, proposed by George Peakirk. Seconded?
I'll second.
Ralph, okay. Okay, discussion on supporting the operating budget from the school as presented.
One question. At the deliberative session, these dollars can be changed, correct?
Yeah, at the deliberative
At the
session,
deliberative,
somebody
okay.
could actually get up and make a motion from the floor to, the motions can be made with regards to particular items in the budget, but officially or legally, like if you,
Well, you can
last year they got up and made a proposal to increase the budget by $300,000,
Right.
restoring a French teacher and a couple of other items. That was the sentiment of the article. The school board received the $300, if you would. They were not under any law obligation to spend it as it
As they
was.
want, right.
But in most cases over time, both on the town side and the school side, they have tried to to adhere to the sentiment of the article, but not always. But having
So
said
do we have a
that.
second on this?
Yes, you do. You have-
Okay.
George, you were the second, Ralph. George was the man in motion.
Yes.
Okay, okay, and obviously the school board started out with a commitment, basically, when they came to us initially, that they realized the challenges, facing the town in general, and they made a commitment to come in with a level funded budget, which they did, and obviously which the town also did in large part. So, anyway, so if any further discussion on the operating budget as presented? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of supporting the LHS operating budget as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Jimmy, you and I? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
okay, so that is supported, 6-0. The second item would be, just trying to get to the right page. Okay, on their page number 47, support staff warrant article. A summary of that is the school had negotiated either last year or the year before with the professional staff to change insurance plans and incur some larger deductibles, part of which were funded either directly or indirectly by the school. They are now looking to move the support staff to that same insurance program, which is called School Care as opposed to Health Trust, I believe. In the first year of the contract, which is a 2-year contract, there's going to be an overall savings of just shy of $30,000 because of savings in insurance cost, while still including a pay raise for the employees. In year 2, with the insurance cost already being realized, the second year of the contract has a pay increase, which results in a increase in year 2 of $36,251. Okay. Diane, does that sound right? Am I hitting the
Yes,
issues?
yes.
Okay.
All right, I make a motion, we go ahead and vote on the support staff warrant article.
Second.
Okay. Paid by Ralph, seconded by Heather. Okay, any discussion on the support article? Support staff article? All those in favor of supporting the support staff warrant article as listed on page 47, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that is supported 6-0.
I abstain.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you said yes.
I did not say anything.
Sorry, okay, I'm sorry, George. Okay, so
Yes.
5 yes, 0 no's, and 1 abstention. Okay. The third article, which is professional staff warrant article, the school gave a rather detailed explanation of that. There was a lot of discussion about the steps, the windows, the base salary or whatever. And obviously there's a fair increase in each of the 3 years of the contract. Within the third year, the teacher's assuming 1% greater of the cost of their insurance. For discussion purposes, at least, is there a motion to support professional staff warrant article as listed on page 48?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Okay.
And I got significant discussion.
Okay, that is fine, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so, made by Diane and seconded by Heather. Okay, the discussion on, professional staff warrant article is listed on page 48.
Okay. I'm gonna start out by saying, they're looking for a cost increase. It says on here, it's a one-year cost increase of $174,000. Well, they got 72 teachers. Each one of these cells is going up $575, plus every teacher's getting a step increase, which comes to $1,925 per teacher every year for the next 3 years. They're saying it's 174, but it's not, because I multiplied it out. It's with benefits. Their budget's going to go up to $277,279. All right, in the first year, they proposed no teacher cuts. They've got a ratio of 10-to-1, which is in the top 25% of New Hampshire. Okay, and I know they could sit there and explain all day long why they got to have this ratio, but still, every school has the same issues. Every school has the same ratio type calculation. We're in the top 25% in this town of teachers, 10-to-1. I calculated out, if they reduce 3 teachers at the step 13, B.45 with a master's degree, okay?
That's pretty high.
Then if they reduce 3 teachers with benefits, that's going to be $277,000. So I'm thinking I can't approve a salary increase unless we see that made up by teacher reductions. Okay, they had some teacher reductions last year, but guess what? They've also had students drop, so the teacher ratio has not changed. And they didn't lose teachers, they lost staff support and paraeducators. They still got the same ratio as teachers. Okay? That hasn't changed.
But my only comment to that, Ralph, is, I mean, you voted yes on the operating budget, so
You
obviously
have to.
You know it.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Because if you vote no on it, then what you're saying is, I'm going for the default budget, and I don't want to go for the default budget because it's higher than the operating budget. What I'm saying is, we shouldn't approve these increases here. We should not approve these increases this year because they didn't give us any staff reduction for this year. And they need to start reducing teacher counts.
Why? So
Because
I think professional, whatever they're called, is where they need it, and also in upper management, maybe even more than teachers.
And I personally like the 500 on the whole wage schedule, because someone at a lower step, that $500 is a bigger increase than someone at a higher step. So you're attracting.
And that's not a problem, and I don't see that as a problem. But then they added this step increase to every single teacher in the school district.
Yeah.
They give every teacher a step increase after they added on the $575 and all themselves.
Okay.
That's a significant increase with no reductions in staff, and there should be a reduction in staff.
Diane?
Can I jump in?
Yes, you can, please.
Okay. I really am in a quandary here because I do believe in supporting the teachers. However, I can't support this contract. The $575 added to each step over the next 3 years, we are already number 26 in the state out of 150 school districts. We're 26 in the state for the highest beginning salary. So if we continue over the next 2 years to add $575 to this, we are really marching up there. We are already $3,000, $5,000, and $7,000 more than the surrounding school districts in our beginning salary wage. 3,000, 5,000, and 7,000. That's significant. So, as for being able to recruit, I think we already have good numbers in our salary schedule for that. Looking at the total amount over the next 3 years, I think they had the amount being $508,000. That's a trajectory of, 3% on the whole budget. So that would be that's $500,000 in 3 years. In 6 years, it's $1 million. In 9 years, it's $1.5 million if we were to begin this trajectory. And I don't think our town can really afford it or support it. Our tax base isn't growing as steadily as we would like. I'm not here to say that the teachers shouldn't have a pay raise, but I'm saying that we can't afford this one. And unfortunately, our discussion comes after they have negotiated, which is the process. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of wiggle room here. We can't say reduce it down and we can still give you a pay raise. But right now, with $500,000 in the next 3 years, $1 million perhaps in 6 years, I mean, this trajectory is just too rich for this community. So I can't support it. And there may be some operational language in there that the school board would like to have, but they really didn't get into that with us. They just gave us the numbers. And on the numbers alone, I would have to say I can't support it.
I agree.
Also, Diane, on that 508,000 you're talking about, that's just on the wage increase. It does not include the increase of benefits, which is also 59% of the wages. So actually, you've got to multiply that 508 by another 59%, and we're talking $700,000 in 3 years.
So, well, yes, you probably have that figured out much better than I do, but just going on the numbers that they gave us, it's something that I can't recommend to the town or the voters. I just don't think it's, I'm trying to find something that's, workable, but this one isn't workable.
Let's vote on it.
Any further discussion? Okay. Okay, so we have a motion on professional staff warrant article as listed on page 48. It was made by Diane and seconded by Heather. All those in favor of supporting the professional staff warrant article, please say aye. All those opposed?
No.
So,
So that's actually 0 in favor and 6 against. Okay, the last 2 warrant articles, and these are pretty much placekeepers, if you would, that have been in there over the years. Basically, in looking forward to maintaining the buildings, not just obviously Lakeway, which you've heard a lot of conversation about, but the high school, even though the high school was rebuilt and built new not that long ago, some fairly significant cost to maintaining those structures. So the school has traditionally asked the voters to give them permission to retain funds out of whatever surplus they may have at the end of the fiscal year. So this would be to say that July 1st of this year, so this is not really on the budget that we're voting on now, this is the budget that we're actually in. We would be giving them permission for the budget that started July 1st of 2017 and ends June 30th, 2018, to, should they have surplus, to retain in 2 separate warrant articles $50,000 for building maintenance, and the second article for $30,000 for equipment maintenance or replacement.
May I say something about this?
Yes, you can, George.
If you look at Lakeway, they totally have not used their maintenance money properly. I mean, Lakeway's a mess, but it's become a mess over the last 20 years. That hadn't happened overnight. And they obviously have not used, and it's not all this group's fault, but Lakeway is a mess. And I don't think they've used the maintenance money properly. Whether they are now or not, I don't know.
Man, I do know over the years that they have been, you know, like roof replacements, including on the high school. There was a new gym floor that was involved, and you know, them having this money obviously enables them to do that without having to come to the taxpayers.
I feel like Lakeway's in such bad shape, they don't want to put any maintenance money into it, which I understand that too.
Yeah, I think, George,
You have
that.
to have some, and I think some of it's reactionary, isn't it?
Yeah.
What?
So you have to have some, I said some
Oh,
of
I
that
agree
maintenance
with- I
money,
agree with
a
that.
lot of it's
I-
reactions to.
Yeah, but,
They do have reserve accounts, and
Yes.
and they're significant. And Karen probably has those at her fingertips if we.
Get your fingertips going, Karen.
But Karen has, but she has the reserve accounts.
The unassigned fund balance, isn't that the one that they give back to us at the end of the year for tax purposes?
Oh.
The unassigned
Yeah,
fund
that
balance?
is.
Yes,
Both
because
of
they,
So-
unlike the town, they cannot retain, other than if they opt to retain under that 2.5%
Okay.
provision that they have.
So they've got money in the unassigned fund balance. They've already told us we're not getting any back next year.
Well, I don't want to say, I'm the one that kind of mentioned that, Ralph, just based on reading the numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if we take $80,000 out of the unassigned fund balance and put it into another balance, that's all they're doing is putting from one balance to another. Then that's less unassigned fund balance they can give us next year for the tax.
Yeah. Although this
Right.
this past year, they did do some facility maintenance that instead of funding it out of the budget, that they actually took those funds out of these reserve accounts. They had money in their budget for certain maintenance items in the school that they opted to use, to not spend the money in the budget. And they opted to take the money out of their reserve accounts that was
Yeah.
designated for it.
It'd be
So-
nice to know how much is in there,
Well,
their
Karen-
facilities
Karen-
maintenance and
As
equipment.
Diane said, Karen can tell us those figures.
This information is as of October, because I didn't pull their December information yet. I have the towns, but I don't have the schools, because I'm not usually asked that question. But school district had in their equipment fund, as of the end of October, $103,301. In their facilities maintenance fund, they had $137,877. In their education disabled children fund, they have $152,715. In their career and tech ed center fund, which I don't know what the specifics are on this, they have $347,499. And then their heating fuel fund, they have $40,606.
So my other question,
That's not
and if I may, thank you, Karen. My other question is, during the proposed budget this time, they don't really have any projects, correct? I think I asked that, and I think they said that they didn't have anything major. And Steve, for this current school year, have they pulled any money out of those reserve accounts to do any projects?
Not that I can remember, Karen. Diane, I'm not sure I could speak to that with certainty, but nothing that jumps out, you know, in terms of, I mean, the thing that I remember them mentioning most had to do with some of those heaters in Lakeway. And I think they replaced 3 of them last year, and they were looking to replace 3 of them this year. They weren't huge items, but they're not insignificant.
So I didn't hear them mention anything, so I'm kind of asking the committee members if they remember it being mentioned. If they had taken some of the monies out of those accounts, then I wouldn't mind refilling them. But if they haven't, just from what Karen has listed there, I think it's sufficient. They have enough rainy day funds in those accounts.
Yeah, like I say, I can't say specifically, but I do know that in the 16-17 budget, that they did use some of those funds in lieu of spending them out of
their regular operating budget. But I can't say for the 17-18, I do not know that.
So what are some thoughts from the committee members? Do you think those reserve accounts are sufficient?
I think what they have, is sufficient.
Okay.
I think what they've got is sufficient in there. You know, they got over $100,000 in each one of those funds.
Of course, if they were here, they would tell you too, that, you know, some of the things that could happen, roofs or whatever, or a boiler, that, you know, that those
Yeah,
aren't.
we could get hit with a missile from North Korea.
Well, that's right.
Shot
Just
for
like Hawaii.
Washington, shot for Washington, they misguided still.
Let's not be saying that.
We could, what if, that's.
You know, no, that's right. But I mean, you know, you know, they would mention the big things like a boiler or a roof or, you
Or
know,
an I-bomb.
you know, something that, you know.
So go ahead and make the vote.
Okay, well, anyway, I would entertain a motion on, to support Article 49, the School Facilities Maintenance Capital Reserve
both at
Fund.
once?
Huh?
Can we do them both?
Well, why don't we do them individually,
Okay.
if you don't mind, there's only two, so. I have somebody to make a motion on 49,
I'll make a motion.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor of supporting the School Facilities Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund is listed on page 49, please say aye. All those opposed, nay?
Nay.
06.
Right.
Okay, and then the final one, Replacement of Equipment Capital Reserve Fund is listed on page 50 of the handout. A motion to support the article is listed on page 50. Can I have a motion made by?
I'll make a motion to vote, I don't make a motion to support.
Okay, that's what I'm asking for. Motion made by George, seconded by
Ralph.
Michael
George P. Kirk.
P. Kirk, Patrick,
No, not bad.
Paul, Philip.
No, forget it. Well,
Later,
I got
later.
it all.
Okay, sorry. Okay, all those in favor of supporting the Replacement of Equipment Capital Reserve Fund is listed on page 50, please say aye. All those opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay.
Okay. So that's 0, 4, 6 against. Okay,
Can we go home now?
unless there's anything else anyone else would like to discuss. Okay, well, obviously, I thank you all for the season. I mean, it's.
Are we through now?
it's been good. Well, I mean, that's a caveat here. I mean, the town may ask us to come back to reconsider something else if they get,
That's right. Yeah, probably on Foster Hill Road, we'll have something for you to consider.
okay? And I'm gonna convey this to the school, and, you know, they may possibly ask for something too, so. You know, I say, I thank everybody for your time, your service, and, you know, I still think it makes a
Thank you,
difference.
everybody.
Okay, Diane, thank you.
Thank you.